Hey, are you ever going to start this podcast you've been talking about for like forever?
Do you think that anyone will actually want to listen to something like this?
What is your plan for an introduction?
Are you sure you want to talk about these topics? People usually disagree.
3 hours? Are you crazy?
Do you think you're some kind of expert or something?
Are you planning to have an intro song?
What if a bunch of people get really mad and hate you over this?
Do you even know how to make a podcast?
Are you just doing this because you like to argue with people?
Don't let this be just one more thing that you talk about doing, but never actually do.
Wouldn't it be better to do just one episode for each topic?
Stop trying to change people's opinions. Just live your own life.
Dude, people are never going to agree. Just let it go.
Is this going to be a long intro? Because if it is, I'm bored already.
Thanks for checking out the 12th episode of Season 2 of the Why Can't We Talk About That podcast. Today's episode is a good one, just like all the others, and we will get to that in just a second. But first, I wanted to share something with you. This isn't a rant, because remember, those are no longer allowed, but this is just for your own education. Over the years, I have learned that there are many things that people assume are in the Bible, but aren't. Just to set the record straight, here are a few of them. Remember that these are not actually in the Bible, even though many think they are. I am listing verses that they could, in theory, come from. But if you attempt to look for these books in the Bible, you won't find them. Here we go. God helps those who help themselves. That's from 1st Americanians, 1776. And here's another. This too shall pass. From Wisdomonius, 911. And here's a popular one. Yea, verily, God wants you to be happy. That's from the book of Oprah, chapter 1, verse 1. Or how about this one? If you work hard enough, you'll be successful. The book of Second Jobs, chapter 9, verse 5. And finally, just follow your heart and believe, and you can do anything. That's from the Song of Disney, chapter 20, verse 18. Now on to my guest. The year was 1996. I was going to visit the home, for the very first time, of a girl who I had only known for a few days. Like maybe a week, but was already really into her. This meant that I was about to meet her parents and 4 of her siblings for the first time. Her oldest younger brother, Jesse, was probably around 13 at the time. One of the first things he ever said to me was, "Hey, come here and listen to this." Then he picked up the telephone, an actual landline way back in those days, and played the Power Rangers theme song using the phone buttons. He was extremely proud of himself, and I connected with him instantly. Over the years, as I got to know this kid who would eventually become my brother-in-law, we bonded over many things, especially punk rock and going to punk shows in San Diego, and have had many great conversations over the years. Today, you are all lucky enough to listen in on one of those conversations. Topics today include Space Case, NOFX, Rancid, Blink-182, 15, City and Color, Alexisonfire, You+Me, Crimpshrine, Operation Ivy, Pinhead Gunpowder, At the Drive-In, the Mars Volta, Stone Temple Pilots, Tarot Cards, Addiction, Kings of Leon, Michael Jackson, the Mr. T Experience, Muse, the Separation of Church and State, RFK Jr., Pandering, Microchips, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Disney, Bud Light, Agendas, Trans Rights, Racism, the Public School System, Indoctrination versus Education, Elliot Page, The Umbrella Academy, Actual Acting, American Beauty, and be careful, there is spoilers if you haven't seen it, Intelligent Design, The Testimony of God, The Bees with Knees, and Aliens. If you haven't yet, please leave a review wherever you are listening to this from. It will really help me out. And I am very interested in your feedback, good or bad, so please contact me at whycan'twetalkaboutthat@proton.me. If you or anyone else you know would be interested in being a guest on the show, please send me an email. Thanks. I hope you enjoy the conversation.
I'm looking forward to this new Seth Rogen Ninja Turtles that's coming out.
Oh, he's in that one?
Well, he's part of the... I think he's in it too, but he was a big part of the production of it.
Oh, okay.
Of it being made.
It
has a really rad animation style.
I can't get excited about those anymore.
What?
Because every time I do, they suck.
Oh, it looks good though.
Well, they always do.
Right.
They always look good, and then you start watching it, and you're like, "What is this garbage?"
Have you seen a preview for it?
No.
Oh, you'd be.
I don't watch previews.
Never.
Very rarely. The only time I ever watch a preview is if I'm in the theater.
Yeah.
And I have to, like I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
But that's not very often, just because I feel like they give away so much of the movie in the preview. I don't want to know anything.
I don't feel like that one giveaway was very like, chopped up to where it's not like it just depends on who's cutting the trailers. Because some people cut them and put like big spoilers in them.
Yeah.
Like I've watched 3-minute, 4-minute trailers where I'm like, I don't even need to watch a movie now.
Right.
I feel like I just watched.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It bothers me.
Are you a Hunger Games fan?
Yeah.
So I love the books. I love the movies. They put out a 4th book. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Do you want to finish that?
But they had. Oh no, we're going.
Oh, are we going?
Yeah. And that's what we just jump right in.
You didn't say we're live.
No, we're going right in. Like I said, I cut out a lot of the intro stuff that doesn't relate. But but like Hunger Games, they put out a 4th book and they have a new movie coming out. Have you seen the preview for it? It's called Of Songbirds and Snakes.
It's a new Hunger Game movie?
Well, it's a prequel. So it's about Snow when he's a kid.
Oh.
The book is fantastic.
The president, right?
Yes.
That's Donald
Sutherland.
Yeah.
The book is great. Awesome. One of the best characters ever. Not Snow, but there's another character named Lucy Gray that's in the book. I love her more than Katniss, more than Peeta, more than any of the other characters in the original trilogy. Love it. Well, the movie's coming out. Alora saw the preview because she loves the Hunger Games too. And she's like, "Oh, Dad, you got to see this preview." And Christina goes, "You're not going to watch it, are you?" I go, "No." I said, "But I'm so nervous because I said as soon as I read the book, if they don't get this character right in the movie, I'm going to be so disappointed. They better cast her correctly.
Yeah.
They better get somebody that plays her exactly like the book makes her out to be because she's the greatest character of all time." But to this day, I won't watch the preview.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't want spoilers. I don't want to know anything, you know?
That's funny.
So,
that immediately, and I know you have not seen this movie, but the...
which one?
The 50 Shades.
No, never saw that.
Everybody apparently was like, oh, that's a... Women loved that book.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Well, which is interesting, right? Because then at the same time, they're up in arms about other stuff that's just as sexually derogatory. But they say, but the character, she wanted to be doing that. So
who's the main demographic of these... what do you want to... What would you classify that? I mean, you're a librarian, so...
Oh, the book? What, erotic?
The type of... Yeah.
Erotic literature?
Or the romance novels or whatever. I mean, it's more on the erotic side.
Right.
It's... the main demographic of that is women.
Sure.
Men aren't most men aren't reading that. So, but that character Christian Grey in it, like he's just dark and but like when the actor came out, they were all like, "This is not who he's supposed to be."
Well, they didn't even like the casting of what's her name, the girl,
I thought
Melanie Griffith's daughter, right, is the girl in that movie.
Is that Melanie Griffith's daughter?
Yeah.
Her last name wasn't Griffith.
No, it's what's her
main character?
Yeah.
Oh man,
is it Anna something?
No,
that's the character's name. No, that's the character's name. What's her name? Dakota Johnson.
Johnson, yes.
Yeah, and I don't remember who her dad is, but her mom.
She grew on me over time. I think I saw her in something else, and but I didn't read the books. But when I watched them.
I mean, come on. If you're watching that movie, you're not watching it for a good plot line. I'm sure you're not like, it's just a great story.
But that's the same thing with Harry Potter. People were upset about Harry Potter, about they didn't like Ron or Hermione, like the castings.
Oh, maybe, but see, as someone like we were talking about, as someone who's seen the movies first, I love those castings.
Right.
But I didn't read the books till after I saw the movies. So when I'm reading the books, I'm picturing the actors that played them in the movies anyway. And I love Hermione. She's my favorite character in the entire series.
I didn't read the books again, but I thought Weasley was awesome.
Oh, great. Perfect.
All of them.
Yeah, they're all great. Yeah, exactly.
I get sad about when I watch those movies. So I'm like, I don't get to. I looked forward to it when the new ones would come out because I hadn't read the book, so I'm like, oh, what's going to happen next? Where's this adventure going?
And now they're all over.
Yeah,
but you get to experience it with your kids all over again.
I did read or hear that it's in the works for them to get back together and do maybe the Cursed Child, possibly.
Oh yeah,
that's play.
That's the one about their kids and stuff, right?
About their kids, yeah. But that they'll all participate. Did you watch the reunion?
Yes, thing? Yeah.
That it gets you all choked up.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Helena Bonham Carter had a thing for Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh really?
Yeah, she was at least.
That's a weird woman right there, man.
They played it up. I mean, she was with. Or is or
with
was
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton.
You got to be weird to be with Tim Burton.
Yeah. That makes me think too. I didn't realize that Danny what's his wife? It was Fonda, Bridget Fonda.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And unfortunately, gorgeous woman when in my youth in the 90s and stuff.
Right.
And then she's one of those people just like the lady from Top Gun where you see pictures of them now and you're
oh
my God.
Yeah.
Like
what was Bridget Fonda was in was she in Singles? That was her, right?
I don't know. What comes to me is Doc Hollywood. That I don't know why
Doc Hollywood. She was in Doc Hollywood?
Yeah.
So was the girl from Tommy Boy was in that too, right?
But
the girl that played his girlfriend?
Was the main love interest of Michael J. Fox?
Dude, I haven't seen Doc Hollywood since I was like 10.
That was one of those. So, in the 90s, before DVDs and before streaming services,
right?
That the young folks listening to the podcast,
like DVDs. Getting in the last one of these, I did someone mention 8 tracks.
Yeah, we would have VHSs with 3-4 movies on them sometimes in a row because you'd record them on low quality.
Oh yeah, I remember. I still remember. I had Ghostbusters, Gremlins on the same disc. Yeah, on the same VHS tape. Yeah.
Doc Hollywood was one of those ones. So you only had 40 movies in your cabinet that your family watched on repeat. So,
Oh yeah.
So,
so that was one of yours, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was the other girl I'm talking about from Tommy Boy, right? The one that out on the boat, and she's like, "You better pray to the God of skinny punks that I don't come over there." She's the one that was she a cop? No, she wasn't a cop. Her brother was a cop. She's the one that Tommy was like friends with her brother growing up or whatever.
I put that on final.
Yeah, she's like his love interest in the movie.
Yeah,
and they become a couple by the end.
I put it on the other day. As you know, you have to find the.
Yeah.
You're trying to fall asleep watching TV because you can't sleep. So you're like, I'll put something on and let myself get tired. So I was like, Tommy Boy.
I wouldn't be able to sleep with that on.
It worked.
I'd be laughing hysterically. That movie's so funny. Yeah. That's the best Chris Farley movie easy for me, I think.
That's a funny skill, trying to find like when you can't sleep and you're like, well, I have to find something that's just interesting enough to put on and not so interesting or you know what I mean?
But I never have that problem because I don't know what it's like to not be able to fall asleep.
Oh yeah,
that is never a problem for me. You ask Bethany, I mean, my head hits the pillow, I'm out.
Yeah,
that's why if she has something she needs to talk to me about before bed, I need to stay sitting up.
That's a funny thing.
Because as soon as I lay down, I'm gone.
I'm between jobs right now. I just recently left a job that was way more emotionally, mentally taxing than I realized until I got out of it. I've been out of it for a week and a half or so now.
Oh wow! You recently quit your job? Did you quit?
No, they let me go.
Oh, you got laid off?
I think it was. I was just glad they pulled the Band-Aid off. And said, I mentally checked out. It was bad from the get-go. It was it was an opportunity for a better position, and then and as soon as I got in, right, day one, it was bad, and I never reconciled it. I mean, I had better days. I felt like it was getting better. I was pushing through, trying to make the best of it, but ultimately it was a bad spot for me.
Okay.
But
you were the job before that. You were there for like 1,000 years or something, weren't you?
Yeah, and that was just getting bad. The company was just going down, and I elected to leave because I didn't like the direction I was going. As an employer, I don't think they were doing their due diligence. I mean, for simple things as getting like a pay stub, which that's super shady.
Right.
I'm like, I need accountability.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm being paid correctly. And
right. This was the old place or the new place?
Yeah, the old place I was with forever.
Oh, okay.
And they were getting behind. They're a small mom and pop business. They were getting behind on paying my health benefits and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is a red flag that you guys are about to go under.
Well, especially with such a young family that you have.
Yeah. So I just, I'm union, so I'm able to just jump to another company, make basically the same wage.
Yeah.
And then I moved to another company for like 3 months. Another opportunity presented itself for like an even better, potentially better position. But I did not care for the company at all. I didn't like the way it was run. And which gives me back to, so since I've left that, I was exhausted. I would go to sleep like no problem almost every night just because of work.
Just sheer exhaustion.
Well, it's just from job to job, which I've always said is my first job is being a husband and dad.
Yeah.
My second job is to go to the other job and make money for my first job.
Right. Which is also for your wife and your kids.
So between your two jobs, a manual labor, I'm on the road anywhere from hour and a half to 2 hours every day, depending on my commutes, and then 8 hours, so you're 10 hours manual labor, out doing stuff, come home, right into it with babies, kids.
Right.
Just straight, cooking dinner, cleaning, just trying to keep your house from falling apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're exhausted. You want to sit down and like have some time with your wife, let's watch that show.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, whatever show, you like to watch together, which is
right.
Unfortunately, a typical pastime for families is like, hey, let's get together and be together, but let's go over.
Well, just because you want to zone out,
I would fall asleep all the time.
Yeah, me too.
Conk out on the couch and sleep on the couch a lot of time because Crystal can't get me off the couch once I fall asleep.
She's like, forget it.
So now that I haven't been working and I don't have to wake up for work the next day, I find myself having trouble. Not trouble necessarily, but I'm more wakeful in the night. Crystal's more of a night owl. I'm more of a morning person because I'm in construction.
Me too. And Bethany's
I think we've had conversations about that before because
it's very similar.
I'm pretty sure with Bethany talking about how my brain will get going early in the morning, and then I hit her with all these ideas, and she's like, "It's too early. Can you please?" I'll start the day off as my, the relationship with your wife. It's like good day, bad day, whatever.
Sure.
But you don't want to start the day off on a bad note.
No, you don't.
Yeah, because then unless somebody has a good ability to reset and change the day, that'll.
Which most people don't.
Yeah.
In reality, right? If I say something to set Bethany off in the morning, I can pretty much be guaranteed it's going to be building all day while I'm at work. And when I come home, it's going to be like, okay, now I got to deal. So that's why I always try to be really careful about what these days I'm thinking more before I'm speaking. Because I'm learning, and her and I did a lot of kids.
Isn't it wild how long it takes us to learn that?
Yeah, I know. It's a maturity thing, I think, because for so long you're trying to defend yourself all the time. Like, well, I didn't do it. It becomes a fight, a battle. But who's wrong? I don't even care anymore most of the time.
Right.
I'm like, look, I'll be wrong. If that's going to make everything happy around here, I'm wrong. Great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about defending myself as much anymore. Yeah. Sometimes I do. Like, if it's something I'm really passionate. Yes. Exactly. I want happiness. I want to come home and be like, okay, everybody's in a good mood. This is great.
There's nothing worse than like emotional turmoil in the house. You can
it's horrible.
Feel the aura.
Yeah.
Almost pushes me physically out of the home to where I'm like, my skin's crawling. I can't even be in the house, and I don't like to be one to run away from confrontation. But when your only choice is if I'm here, confrontation's 99% going to happen.
Right.
No matter how I open my mouth or close my mouth. Or,
you just can't win.
I can't sit in the right place in the house because she's she's already been triggered. She's already.
Right.
I mean, but there's definitely something to, not to like stereotype, but I definitely think there's something to men. Being logical, and women being
more emotional.
Tend to be more emotional.
Yeah, just as a blanket thing. It doesn't mean every woman's that way or every man's that way.
And that they don't think. That they just purely react off emotion.
And that's important, right? Because when I say women are more emotional and men are more logical, it makes it sound like women are stupid and men don't have emotions. Right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying men tend to lead more with their brains, where women tend to lead more with their emotions. It doesn't mean women aren't smart. I mean, my wife is very intelligent. She's smarter than I am. But she does. She's more emotional because she's a female.
It's just like I feel like men tend to be more problem solvers.
Exactly.
And that's one thing that
sometimes they don't want it. They don't want that problem solved.
I heard, I'm collecting information actively and passively constantly every day, whether it's through podcasts or reading or whatever, so you forget where you hear things, but you're like, I heard a good thing. And one thing was someone saying when their wife wanted to talk to them or just have anything, it's like somebody's like, do you want me to listen or do you want my thoughts, or do you am I trying to help you problem solve, or am I just here to listen to be a listener?
Right. And it's important to ask that before you go into it, because then because if I know ahead of time I'm just needing to listen, I can do it.
Because when you start spouting out trying to solve their problems, they get more frustrated.
Yes.
And you're like,
but that's our normal go-to, because I was just talking to Bethany about this the other day, because if if I'm complaining about something, it's because I want it fixed. That's the only reason I'm saying something about it, right? So to me, it's only natural if someone else comes to me and says, oh, this and this and this. Oh, well, let me help you fix that.
Yeah.
That's just my natural go-to. But a lot of times she's like, I don't want you to fix this. I just want you to listen to me, tell you about what's happening. That's foreign to me. Because part of me is going, why are you even talking to me about it then if you don't want a solution? Like, what? But it's like the solution is for me just to listen. And then she's fine. And she's good to go, and everybody's happy, and it's like, well, that's easy.
And I can understand that now too, because the older we get, the more our good friends or the people that you have trust. I mean, you have, let's say, 500 contacts in your phone. I have had emotional crises where I feel like I need someone to talk to. And let's say Crystal's not the person for whatever reason. I can't talk to my wife, or I don't feel like she's the right person. I've sat and scrolled. Who can I call? I feel like I just need to talk to somebody, not like they need to solve my problems, but somebody who will listen, who I can speak to about this particular set of circumstances or issue I'm dealing with. Because it may be so interpersonal in such a way, like only some people know you in that aspect of your personality, you know.
Or people that have dealt with the same thing you're dealing with a lot of times.
Whether it's someone with like spirituality, let's say, for example, which is a big part of your life.
Yeah.
So there's only so many people you can really discuss that critically with, or you feel like will listen to you.
Right. Well, plus if I'm looking for advice, me personally as a Christian, I'm not going to go get advice from a Buddhist, or Hindu, or you know what I'm saying, because that advice is going to be contrary to the spiritual advice I would be getting from another Christian. And the same way a Muslim is not going to go to a Christian and say,
disagree with that. Maybe that's that's an avenue that would be worth exploring sometimes, because if you keep yourself like typecast into like, I'm only speaking to this type, you know, there's something to be, especially from people that have these generalized, I mean, a lot of the stuff can be, I don't know if that's the right word, extrapolated, or like from Christianity that applies to someone who's not Christian, or from
there might be some similarities, for sure.
Probably a lot more than some. You know, I mean, as far as like the specifics, that's where religions split. And
I just mean, like, if I went for help and somebody and a Hindu person said, "Oh, go pray to Krishna." I'm not going to go pray to Krishna. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's not it's not
just like so. I went with my ex-wife, who, as you know, was like big problems with addiction and stuff. So I attended Al-Anon for quite a number of years, and there was a lot of terms that they use that are just the same ones from AA, you know, and I think NA, or
like higher power and all that kind of stuff.
All that kind of stuff, But I mean, there's just like all these little sayings and stuff, and it's like, you don't have to be an addict for these to be applicable to helping you in your life. You know, so
well, that's a good point, and that's definitely something. In fact, I'm gonna write that down, because when we talk about spirituality, that's what I'm talking about. But that's a good point. Is that there's people that are into spirituality or religion for the benefit of themselves. And I don't mean in a selfish way. I don't mean like, oh, I only care about myself. But I mean, their whole purpose is, what can I learn that's going to make my life better, right? I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But the teachings of Christianity is different than that. Like, your life does get better. And that's like a byproduct. But that's not what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
But we'll dig into more of that. I'm going to talk about that, and let me see. Let me write that down real quick.
So is this kind of the free ball intro to...
Yes, the free ball intro. I like that. That's a good thing there. But yeah, usually I start with music. But yeah, the first, whatever, we just kind of banter back and forth about stuff. But then it's cool because I get ideas about what to come back to later in the topics that we're in.
When we were looking through those jewel cases and stuff in the garage, is there anything that just jumped out at you like, oh my god?
Yeah, space case. Yeah, that's why I grabbed
space case. Yeah. I didn't. Joe, I think his name was
Joe. Yeah.
I never like loved his vocals.
No,
but his the style.
Yeah, and there's a couple songs on it that to me are just nostalgic.
They kind of reminded me of. I remember. I feel like it's probably the first track.
It is the first. That's my favorite one.
It reminds me of 21 Rest.
Yeah.
It's got 21 restaurants.
Yes, totally.
So there's such a shame with him, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the scene here back then was just so cool. What was I, 20? I think when I was living here, and it was like everybody I knew was in a band.
On fire
everybody was in a band, and they were good bands.
That was the era that we were living in,
right?
But I mean, look at Blink-182, 20 minutes down the road right here.
Yeah.
I mean, and those guys are like I think they got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something, didn't they?
Which is crazy.
Did
you hear? Let's talk about that for a minute. So, are you still a fan of Blink-182, or do you just?
I never was.
Oh, you never were to begin with.
Never was.
Okay, see, I loved the early Cheshire Cat. I loved Dude Ranch.
I liked them, but
You're always more of a Tom DeLonge guy, right? Because you like Angels and Airwaves.
I didn't like him. No,
I thought you were like Angels and Airwaves. Okay.
No, but there was something about. I got into punk rock, and I had trouble finding friends and fitting in when we moved down here to Ramona.
And how old were you then? Like 13?
Moved here, I believe, around 13. It was in the 8th grade, partway into 8th grade. Mm-hmm. I'd already started getting into punk rock from cassette tapes that my neighbor had given me. I had Rancid, NOFX, the typical big,
the good ones.
The good ones. I want to say I'm trying to remember. I remember I never really listened to it. I had the tape. It was Typo Negative, and are they even punk?
That's kind of hardcore, right?
Yeah, I think so. I remember that was on one of the tapes, but I never really listened.
I'm not entirely sure.
I mostly liked NOFX on the cassette tapes that I was given.
Right.
I think it was White Trash, Two Leaves, and
that's such a good one. That's my favorite era, is starting with The Longest Line into Punk and Drublic. Yeah. So Longest Line, White Trash, and then Punk and Drublic. To me, that's the best. And then the live album. Yeah. They came out right after Punk and Drublic. I heard they suck live. Yeah. Those four, that's the best era.
That was pretty actually, the last time when I just saw him a month or so ago, I forgot I have seen him before because I saw him on the Rancid NoFX split tour.
Oh, nice! When they were covering each other's songs. Yeah. Those are that's a cool album.
But I'm losing track.
Sorry, you're talking about your tapes.
Yeah, no.
Neighbor gave
about. So I moved to Ramona, and I'd already gotten into punk a little bit. Skateboarding, I was already into. Those two kind of went hand in hand.
Sure.
And I took me a little while to find a group of friends. Remember my friend Josh, that big heavy dude?
Is he the guy that went to the 15 show with us?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were into like skateboarding and punk rock and stuff. And he wasn't a bad friend per se, but he wasn't one of the greatest friends either. Because my problem and this is kind of a little sidetrack is what my brain does. But my issue, at least all through high school, which I'm sure is a lot of people's issue, is like I just fell into a lot of people like as a follower more. Like I let people treat me badly because I was just wanted friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyhow, so I ended up getting into this. Once I got into high school, I started hanging out with this small group of like a dozen or so guys that were like punk rockers. But at the very same time, Blink really blew up. I mean, after Cheshire Cat and all that stuff, because that wasn't really their big blow up.
No, Dude Ranch, that was the big one. And then Enema of the State was even more so.
Yeah, I mean, when they put them on American Pie.
Yeah. That was around the Enema of the State.
Yeah. So,
What's My Age Again and all that stuff.
And that movie was just, the embodiment of what it was like to be in high school,
Which was what their music was all about back then.
Laid,
right. Exactly. Right.
But everybody was into it, and then all of a sudden there was this sideways ball cap and studded belt culture of where it was like kind of this weird jock rock type punk rock, which wasn't. It was different. It was hipster version, mainstream. Like punk rock had become mainstream, and so being like, even though I didn't grow up in the 70s and 80s when punk rock was that's what
I didn't either, right? But see, that's not even to this day. That's not my favorite kind of punk rock. I love the mid '90s stuff.
No, but I felt you felt like an elitist or something,
right?
A purist or whatever. So when I was being made fun of as a freshman or whatever in high school for dressing the way I did. I would, we'd wear pants like 50s kids and cuff them, like high water and
right.
suspenders and studs. We get studs and just put them through our sweatshirt. And sew our own patches on and stuff. And
well, see, that is punk rock. That's DIY.
But you get made fun of, and then 365 days later, Blink's the hottest thing.
Yes.
And they're all wearing studded belts, and you're like, get off this is my thing.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
But the cool thing was people started being cool to me. But
so you were the trendsetter, and then you became cool after that.
Sort of.
Because you were already cool. They just didn't realize
it's not like I all of a sudden was like some sort of god or something. But people respected me at least more, And
I was gonna say you must have been somewhat popular because of the fact that Kira had a shirt that said Jesse's sister on it.
That's just
because so many people knew her as Jesse's sister.
Yeah, I think humbly that I probably had more people that knew me or maybe liked me than I realized.
Yeah,
because you're all so in your own head about trying to fit in.
Yeah.
So I always felt like I was.
Oh, it's a hard time at that age.
You always feel like you're a nobody,
right? And you have to try to guide your kids through that.
So it's kind of crazy when you talk to somebody after high school or something that you put on a pedestal and you thought they were popular and awesome and cool, and you're like, oh, you had the same problems I did,
right?
That's the kind of funny thing.
Have you ever, as a side note, because my brain works that way too.
Yeah.
You'll say something that'll trigger something for me. Have you ever heard of Alec Benjamin? He's like a singer-songwriter. He's a young kid. He's like in his early 20s, but he has a song called "The Death of a Hero," and it's all about that. It's about how you put these people on a pedestal and you just think they're the greatest thing ever, and then one day you realize, oh, they're messed up, or they got problems. I think the line says, "I was in the bathroom and I saw Superman, and he was doing lines." Or something, and then you realize, like, man, this guy is not the Superman that I thought he was, kind of thing, So, so there's definitely that for sure.
I was just looking at my notes real quick that I was taking last night of stuff to talk about with music. I mean, me and you have so much to talk about.
Yeah, but I don't want to leave Blink-182. Okay. Because I mean that was an important time, right? Because that's when punk kind of blew up.
So I just never bought in on them really, because they were like the source of everybody stepping on my style.
Sure.
And I'm like, nah, dude, screw these guys. Like, I like 15. I like this stuff, and
we got to talk about 15 too, because
of course
you're the only person so far that I've had on this podcast. Yeah, dude, exactly. You're the only one that even knows what I'm talking about. Like, I've even had some pretty punk rock guys on the show before, and I'm like, oh yeah, my favorite band of all time is this band called 15, and they're like, who? Right, so it's like, and that's kind of endearing, right? To have this band, and there's something cool about having a band that you love so much that not everybody knows about. I don't know why that's cool. It just kind of is. You're just like, oh, you've heard this band? No, I never heard of them. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, have you ever heard of Crimpshrine? And they'll be like, oh yeah, which I find weird. But
like, you've heard of Crimpshrine, but not 15.
So then I'll explain the story. Okay, well, they kind of became, and then I'll even tell people Crimpshrine had Jesse Michaels in it to begin with.
It became because of the East Bay punk rock scene, which you have these cool scenes all over the country, but they were like the mecca, punk rock mecca, at least by my standard.
Right.
And it was really cool to learn, especially before the internet was as powerful as it is now.
Right.
Via zines, and stuff like that.
That's right.
Like the intertwined connectiveness, or like, oh, this guy plays in this band too.
Yeah.
Green Day,
and Pinhead,
in the punk, or in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now too.
Yes.
They all were together playing at 924 Gilman.
Well, yes, they opened for Up Ivy's last show.
Yeah.
But what I was just going to say, what's cool about like Billy Joe is that to this day he still plays with Pinhead Gunpowder.
Yeah.
And they still write new music, and they still really. And here's this guy, he's like this black person. Yes, but nobody even knows about him.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, have you ever heard Billy Joe's side? They'll be like, oh, you mean Foxborough Hot Tubs? No. Oh, you mean? And there was another one. I forgot the other one was.
I've never heard of Foxborough.
Oh, really? So that's all the guys from Green Day.
Is it?
It's all three of them. But a lot of people don't. On one of the episodes from the first season, we talk about it, and this girl's telling the story how much she didn't know she was loving it. She had no idea it was Green Day. I think they only have one album, but
that's funny.
Yeah, but like Pinhead Gunpowder is cool because it's so still underground sounding.
I'd like to know the name of the source of that name. Foxborough hot tubs and like why?
Oh, who knows?
No, but there's always it just makes you think of another. We can get back to 15. That just made me think of City and Color.
Yeah,
who's one of my favorites too.
Right. Well, I don't think I've really ever heard, but I know you named.
They're very folky.
Mm-hmm.
City and Color is actually like a pseudonym. I don't know if that's the right term, but for his name's Dallas Green, which my son's named after him.
Right. Is Dallas your son? Does he have Green in his name too?
No,
just the Dallas.
Just the Dallas. Okay. Yeah, Dallas Green, City Color.
Gotcha.
That's why which is funny. Like I probably could have read that on the internet. I was driving one day and it just occurred to me. And it was so
over, you're like, mind blown.
Well, I was by myself and I'm like, whoa. It's funny. You kind of look around and you're like, there's nobody to tell. I just figured this out.
Right.
I'm sure it was something I could have easily figured out.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it's on the Wikipedia page.
Right.
Yeah.
But he actually started in a hardcore band called Alexisonfire,
which is another band you've told me about.
Yeah,
and I think I did listen to some of that stuff.
And they're like one of those screamo type stuff, I guess you would say, because Dallas Green has a very good melodic voice, so he does all the melodic stuff, not the screaming part. So there's another vocalist.
Oh, there's two vocalists in.
Yes.
And is it Alex is on fire or Alexis on fire?
Alexis on fire.
It's not Alex is on fire.
I think it's Alexis on fire. But it's that's something that I wrote too. But he started that, and then City and Color, he had this. He liked writing his music on his acoustic guitar, and so then he had his, he decided to do his little side project, and it just really took off because he's really good. And
so, do you think City and Color is more popular than?
I think so.
Okay.
At this point, yeah. But he's continued to still do Alexisonfire.
So he does both.
He tours with them, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So the way I got back to that was he actually has a side one album called You+Me, and it's with Pink. Alicia, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
It's a amazing,
interesting
duet album.
What kind of music is that?
It's like folky type, like acoustic.
Okay.
Everything's acoustic. You'll really like it.
Pink's got a great voice. She's got a great voice.
Write down her notes. So you can listen to it on your way home.
What's it called again? You+Me?
Yeah. It's like you. It could be just you plus me.
Like the letter U or the word U?
You. Like Y-O-U.
Y-O-U.
Yeah.
And me.
Yeah.
And that's Pink and Dallas Green?
Yeah. And that's they have a song on there called roundabout back to Foxborough Hot Tubs. They have a song called From a Closet in Norway. So there's an I think there's on Spotify there was an associated album right next to it, which is the commentary. You ever see those once in a while? They'll have a commentary where they talk about each track.
I love that.
It's great.
I love that kind of
when you
stuff,
find that on there, when you find the album, it should be on there because I'm pretty sure that's where I heard it on Spotify. You don't have Spotify. You never figured it out.
I don't have Spotify. Yeah, and I'm sure if you've listened to any episodes from season 1, I've talked about you a few times, not by name, but I've said, my brother-in-law, he's tried to get me on Spotify, and even he's like, dude, I don't know what's happening. Like, won't this work?
You're so bad at technology that
I'm cursed, man. I'm telling you.
I'm surprised Eden hasn't got you on it.
He's tried. Laura tried to get me on
Apple or anything.
No, I just, dude. I have all my songs. I have like 5,000 songs. They're all from my own CDs.
I feel like
that I have in my
next to you with your
library.
phone and log it into you and everything.
You tried that.
Yeah.
You even tried that last time you were at the house. Yeah, and it just wouldn't work.
Send me a different email or something.
Not supposed to have it.
So you probably find on YouTube or whatever.
Probably.
But yeah, From a Closet. I guess he says in the commentary, he said, I came up with this riff for the song sitting in a closet when I was on tour in Norway. So he called the track From a Closet in Norway.
If you can't think of a title, you might as well just name it whatever you're doing at the time you wrote it, right?
I actually like it. I like that.
From a Closet in Norway. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a funny, it anchors that thought though too.
Yeah.
One of the funny things that I've learned about too, like anchoring, like just hearing a song that you heard at one point in your life and takes you right back to that memory.
Isn't that crazy?
Smells, songs.
Yeah, smells is the easiest thing for me.
Right.
A smell, boom, I'm right back to wherever I was when I smelled that last.
It's called You do it with people do it with words and stuff too, but NLP, you ever heard of neuro linguistic programming?
Oh yeah.
So it's like a thing. Somebody could say chai tea to you and touch your shoulder every time, and the next time somebody touches your shoulder after you had to have it, and so many times you're like, I want some chai.
Yeah, which isn't hard for me to want chai. I mean,
you don't need somebody to touch your shoulder.
That's pretty much any time of the day. So yeah, that's it's fascinating how that stuff can just teleport you right back to where that was,
So back to my notes here. 15, man.
So let's talk 15, because like I said, you're the only person so far that I've had on here that I can actually talk to about it.
Changed my trajectory, I think, about who my identity, about who I felt like.
Well, and that's the thing, right? That band, it's not just a band.
They were social.
They meant something to their fans. Like and there's other bands that are like that to me too. But so I never even heard of 15 until I came here.
Right.
So I moved here, and then I was working at Little Caesars, and I just, I listened to my punk. I had I had my NOFX, my Bad Religion, and my Pennywise, and all that kind of stuff, right? But I was working at Little Caesars as a delivery driver. There was another delivery driver there, and he goes, my favorite band is this band called 15. Well, 15 was huge in this area. Like, everybody in this area, Crimpshrine, 15, like even Aaron from Community Kids and 20 Arrests and all that. He said that Crimpshrine was one of his biggest influences, right? So 15 and Jeff and all the bands he was a part of were huge in this area, which is so funny because they're from the Bay Area, which where I was living was in between the Bay Area and here. So you think that I would have at least heard of them up there, but I hadn't. So anyway, I came here and he's like, that's my favorite band. I was like, I've never heard of them. He goes, here, check this out on your next delivery.
What was the first album you handed you?
Choice of a New Generation.
I think. Yeah. I don't know if you bought me Choice or I bought Choice for the first one, because I think that was the first album I owned too. Yeah. And Choice is actually. Yeah. It's debatably my favorite. It is probably because
it's hard as time goes on because it does sound very similar, but it's so good. Yeah. And from the first time I popped in, it
just hits. Yes. It has what is this? Such a great mix of different songs throughout the thing.
Right. And his vocals are stellar in that one. That's vocally, I think that's their best album because that's
for the longest time I thought it was two singers.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Because he was so fluid at changing from.
Right, because he's got that whole I've been having a hard time, and then it's like everything is. It's like, dude, what is this? And
then reading the booklet, one of the great things that we've lost over time.
Right. Yes.
Was one of the best parts about
the album as a whole.
Yeah, going and getting a new album.
Full package. Yeah.
You pop that album in, you just sit there and flip through the book. But seeing Lucky Dog, you're like, that's the guy who has a rough voice. That's what right. You think so, right? Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't. And that was one of those fun connections too with the Bay Area punk rock scene. Is like looking in the Kerplunk book.
Yes.
And you saw the Trout Dance.
Yeah.
By Lucky Dog.
Right.
Yeah. And you're like,
they're all connected. Yeah. It was such a cool thing.
Well, then Aaron Comet Bus. From Crimpshrine. Yeah. And then Pinhead Gunpowder.
Right.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah,
and that's what was neat. It was like a family, and it was like the whole thing with 921 and all those bands that were back then. And to think that even when Crimpshrine started, I'm sure you know that already, but that Jesse Michaels was part of that band, and then he left to go start Operation Ivy with Tim Armstrong and those other guys. And so that's why Jeff took over vocals on Crimpshrine.
That first Common Rider album.
It's good. It's real good. Yeah, I think I showed you that podcast with Jughead from Screeching Weasel.
I don't think I ever.
Jughead's Basement.
Okay.
Is the name of the podcast, and he talks to a bunch of different people. He's had Jesse Michaels on there probably 5 or 6 times at this point. But the first one I ever heard is because he had Jeff Ott on there.
Oh, really?
And he's talking all about those days, about the beginnings of Crimpshrine and 15, and it's good. There's some good ones. I only listen to the ones of the bands that I've heard, because sometimes he has people on there, I'm like, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, it's one thing I contemplated listening to when I was listening to that podcast yesterday, your first episode. Yeah. And you were talking about how important music is to you in your life and how much you listen to it. And I realized I've gone away from listening to as much music as I used to.
Right.
I listen to a lot of podcasts now.
Yeah, I do too. I do both. But sometimes you're just in a mood, and I love that I can just put that on.
Right.
To this day, I can put on Choice of a New Generation.
It's such a weird thing too. Spotify is like Netflix of now streaming services. It's kind of taken away just the same way as streaming and be able to pull up anything at any given time. That was the dream.
Right.
Back in the day, having this booklet full of CDs, you're like, I got everything.
Right.
And now you do.
Yeah, that's true. It's like the world's biggest jukebox.
Getting the iPod and having a ton of songs on it was like, wow, this is amazing.
Right.
I got all this stuff crammed into this one little thing. I can listen to anything. But it's kind of taken away from how, like going to Blockbuster. I pick 3 movies. I either watch them or I don't.
Right.
I don't get to sit there and scroll through Netflix for a half hour and not decide out of a million movies, and I can't pick one.
And now you're like, it's too late. I'm going to bed. I'm tired now.
Yeah. And
so I mean, but to be able to put those back in and just be like, oh, this is just, it just takes you back or whatever. But I mean, so the other thing about 15 is I've only seen them live once, and it was with you. And it was right, in fact, we just drove by it the other day at the Elks Lodge in Poway.
I'm trying to think.
I was telling Bethany, I think you've seen them twice.
I might have even seen them 3 times.
Okay. I know you at least saw him twice, because there's a time you got a picture with Jeff.
I saw Jeff do his acoustic tour.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay.
Spoken word and acoustic.
Yeah.
And then I saw them at the Epicenter. I don't know if you ever went to that venue. That was in Mira Mesa.
So. No.
It was a cool small venue. Saw Jimmy Eat World there when they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Saw the Hives there. Saw the Weaker Thans there.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw a lot of cool. There's a couple of little venues that I was telling you about. There was one at UCSD. It was called the Shea Cafe, and it was literally like a house.
Oh, really?
It had sliding glass doors and everything. I mean, it was kind of turned into this other thing, and then it wasn't exactly a cafe either.
Right,
it didn't feel like a cafe, at least.
Was it small? I mean, how many people could you fit in there?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I couldn't get any big names playing there, really.
Who was that? Oh man, they were like super emo band, and everybody in college loved them. They were all singing all the songs.
Fall Out Boy?
No, not At the Drive-In. It's crap.
I like At the Drive-In.
At the Drive-In school.
Panic the Disco?
No, it wasn't. No, not Panic.
None of those guys? My Chemical Romance?
No, no, it wasn't that. No, they're emo-ish stuff, but
okay.
But then I saw Weaker Thans there, and did you ever hear International Noise Conspiracy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all that in there. That was a cool little venue. But At the Drive-In,
that's a neat one. Yeah, I just inherited that from your brother. Actually, I had never heard of them.
From
Wesley. He gave me a bunch of CDs.
The Mars Volta.
Is that the same guy?
Same guy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The same guitarist and singer.
Okay.
So that was their like punk rock stuff, and then if you go to the Mars Volta, it's more like prog rock.
Right. I remember you showed me some of that. I just didn't know it was the same guy.
It's super psychedelic stuff. I've always thought of it as like a modern like Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
His lyrical style is very cryptic though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I really enjoy the music, but I'm like, I have no idea what the heck he's singing about.
Well, the At the Drive-In album, I think it was an EP. Via is the one I have. And it sounds very Rage Against the Machine to me. Mm-hmm. That's what it reminds me of. So, and that's why I like it.
They hadn't put out a new record in a long time. They just put out a new album. I think
At the Drive-In?
They just played in San Diego. They opened for the Chili Peppers.
Oh, nice.
Or the Mars Volta.
Okay. Oh, the Mars Volta opened for the Chili Peppers? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I saw them open for System of a Down like 10 years ago.
Nice.
And then
you saw System of a Down?
Yeah, it was cool.
Wow.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And then I actually, at Soma, I don't know if you ever went to Soma. I
feel like I was, I think I went there once. That's the one in San Diego, right? Yeah.
And I saw them do it. They did a record release party there, and I went to that one. It's so insane to see live. If you ever get a chance to see the Mars Volta,
I'd have to start.
Their drummer their makes you exhausted.
Oh yeah,
a minute into a song.
He's that good,
and he's so much energy. You just feel like he's drinking a cup of Red Bull like that size, you know, like. But yeah, they're amazing, like stage presence, energy, everything. Yeah, fun one. They're one of the ones that was on my list here talking about.
Yeah, so if I'm gonna try Mars Volta, what's the first album I should start with?
Ooh, I would say their very first record.
Do you know what it's called or no?
I'll tell you.
I can just put first album and I can Wikipedia it or something.
Let's see. The Mars Volta. It's called. The first 2 albums are amazing. It's Deloused, like Deloused in the Comatorium.
What in the world?
Yeah.
Deloused. So like getting rid of lice?
Yeah. Look at the name of all their albums right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy's a weird dude, huh?
He's super weird.
Yeah.
I was following him on Instagram or something for a while, and he had some very weird art style and stuff. I got this belt buckle from him. It's almost, I don't know how you would interpret it given your spirituality, but it's
well, I wouldn't wear a belt buckle anyway.
Well, I haven't ever really. I bought it kind of. It was cool, you know. It's pewter or whatever, and it's this like naked lady. Basically, it's topless, but she's like a half spider. It's pretty weird. Like their artwork.
So the bottom half is spider, and the top
it's almost
half.
like she's doing like the crab walk, but she has 8 legs, and it's trippy. It's like very Medusa feeling.
And you just have that.
Well, if you even like look at,
I'd be kind of scared to have that in my house.
They're
man.
weird album covers and stuff. Like they have strange. Yeah. Dude, I had a giant poster of that one right there. Yeah.
Weird, man.
Yeah. No, he's super weird. And they're what do they call Latin, Hispanic? There's another word I'm looking for.
Yeah, you got to be PC about it.
But they but he'll do some stuff in Spanish and stuff. That was one of my favorite songs. I mean, obviously I was a big fan. I used to play on Guitar Hero or Rock Band.
Oh yeah,
they had one. Yeah, I miss playing.
They had a Mars Volta song on there.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was off that second album.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah, we used to play that at the house. We had that. We borrowed it from my cousin. That was fun.
You were singing, right?
Yeah, I would sing, or I would do guitar and sing. Every time I tried to do drums, I was terrible.
I think I tried to just sing one time on it, and then hearing my voice amplified out. Well, I feel like I tried to do John Fogerty or something.
Right. But see, I would only do it's the same like with karaoke. I'm only going to pick songs that I think I can do a decent job of sounding like.
Yeah.
So I think with the Rock Band, I did Plush by Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh yeah.
I think I can nail that one. I mean, I nail it, but I mean, I can sound decent.
That's Scott Stapp voice.
Right. Except better. I don't know. I don't think Scott Stapp is that great of a singer, to be honest with you. Right. But that's the way it was though. Like with Stone Temple Pilots, though, right? It was the first album was his voice was real low, you know.
It's weird, yeah.
And he got higher as he went. That's why I was just talking the other day about Good Riddance. I felt the same way.
And I didn't think of it as so awesome at the time, but in hindsight, that I got to go see Velvet Revolver.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, super group.
Yeah.
GNR and yes.
And Scott Weiland was the vocalist in that, right?
Oh man, what a stage presence that guy has.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He would do. He had that.
He had.
I don't know. Yeah.
He has departed.
Yeah. He had the aviator glasses, and he'd have that big I don't know how else to think of it. It's like a Third Reich type looking hat. Yeah. I don't know. It's like a captain's hat he would wear. Not like the
like a Nazi Germany.
Not the George Martin hat.
Right.
But I mean, just cool. And then he would do this thing with the megaphone, where he'd use it through the microphone.
Oh, really?
Make him sound like that boxy sound. And he just was all over the place. And he had all that big Jagger moves and stuff. Yeah,
he was a performer.
Rad.
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, I've never seen either of those bands live that he was in. I've seen video.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but I've seen some clips just scrolling Reddit or something. Nostalgia stuff of the old MTV Unplugged, and I'm like, man, I would really love to go back and watch some of those sessions again, because they had all the Seattle grunge bands.
Well, I just got that I had it way back when, but I just reacquired the Nirvana one, the Nirvana MTV Unplugged. Oh, it's epic! It's fantastic. I mean, some of those songs are just better like that. After I started playing guitar too, it made Nirvana better to me in the sense that Kurt Cobain was left-handed too. Right. So every time I saw him play, I'm like, oh, he's like me. So is Jimi Hendrix.
Yes. Yeah. So anytime I saw lefties, because there's not a lot of us.
Right. You got to stick together.
Oh yeah. But it's how it is. That guy's like me.
Yeah, you can connect. You can relate.
It's like somebody who has one leg seeing a one-legged athlete win a medal. And you're like, left-handed can be an awesome. I always felt so weird because all of my friends always pick up my guitar and how am I supposed to play this? Yeah. I mean, me being that I was in a right-handed world, I figured out how to play upside down just so I could. Oh, really? Well, enough so that I could pick up someone's guitar and fool around with it. Right. When I didn't have a left-handed guitar around. Yeah. I remember Dad when Dad was playing in that band and everything, and I was interested in learning how to play guitar because I was into music, and he goes, I was always left-handed with everything, so he goes, you think you'd play right-handed or left-handed? I'm like, well, I play your guitar left-handed, so I think left-handed. So that's how I ended up doing left-handed guitar.
Okay. Is that how you figured out? You already knew you were left-handed as far as right.
Yeah, everything. There's only thing I do that's not left-handed I can think of is I don't skateboard goofy-footed.
That's a thing. Like left-handed people tend to skateboard like they're.
I actually don't know.
With their left foot forward, and maybe because they're pushing with their left foot as opposed to their right.
It has to do with your dominant leg or whatever. But it's the only thing. Yeah. I don't know if I know
when I used to ride a skateboard, I would just use whatever leg wasn't tight.
I don't think there's a big correlation. I'm totally guessing, but I think that goofy foot and regular footed people, it's just whatever you're comfortable with being, which direction you're facing, or which leg you prefer to push with. Yeah.
All right. So before we leave 15, even though we just left it, I want to come back to it real quick because I want to hear. You have a tattoo.
Yes.
Of the 15 symbol.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
The tattoo?
Yeah, just tell me about what that means. I know we've already talked about this before, but I think it's important if you're willing to talk about it.
I always wanted, because I felt like 15 changed my trajectory of who I was going to be as a person.
The band did?
Yeah.
Okay.
It gave me like purpose or something, I felt like I learned values or something.
Sure.
Even if I didn't agree with everything, which as a follower fanboy, I unknowingly did agree with things. And then as I became an adult and developed my own thoughts and opinions, I'm like, well, I don't agree with this anymore.
I'm the same way,
but I think that it just gave me an identity. So it's hardwired into me. Like, this was a changing point when I changed the course. I always like to use the analogy I always forget the difference between analogies and metaphors.
I do too.
They're very similar.
Simile and all of that.
It's the same thing like being a parent. In that I like to think of it as a ship sailing across the sea. You can very slightly change course and you'll end up 1,000 miles once you get all the way across the ocean in a different place if just on that one tick of change of direction.
Right.
By the time you travel that far. And so that kind of did that for me and the trajectory of where I was going. So it's so crazy. I wish I still had the sweatshirt. Not that I would wear it, but do you remember my 15 sweatshirt that I got at one of the shows?
Yeah.
It said "Satan owns you."
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't remember that part.
Yeah. Oh man, he really did go for the jugular with offensiveness with that stuff.
Yeah, but he wasn't a Satanist. He was making a point.
Yeah,
right? Because even on the Choice of a New Generation album, it has that tarot card that has the devil on it.
Yes, and on the back of the sweatshirt was the tarot card with the devil.
Okay.
And then I don't know if I was intentionally looking for that, but I got to reading about that tarot card on what that meant. Because like with tarot, you pull the death card when people would do tarot readings. Doesn't mean you're going to die.
Right.
They have like meanings and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you were getting a tarot reading, you'd probably
right. Oh no!
I'm gonna die.
I'm doomed.
I guess like the way that it comes out on the stack, whether it's inverted or something, is supposed to mean something as well.
Yeah.
So I read about that. Is it the devil card, which is 15, which he would never say, right? Remember, for the longest time, he didn't want to disclose what 15 meant. Right. But I think we've come to realize that it has to do with that tarot card.
Sure.
Especially after you put it on the back of that sweatshirt and everything.
Right.
Like, there's no way that that's not a direct correlation with why he chose that.
Right.
But then also once I read about it too, knowing about Jeff Ott's issues with addiction and struggles with all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
If you read, granted anybody can make anything up like Wikipedia or whatever online about stuff like that, but I felt with confidence enough to get a tattoo.
Right.
Yeah, it had I wish I'd have to read it again to recall, but it both it did inverse the meaning of it somewhat, whether you got it pulled upside down or not, but it had to do with addiction and like struggles. And so on the tarot card, the chains and the shackles that are around, well, I don't know, it's supposed to be Adam and Eve, a man and a woman that are at the base of this Baphomet looking devil, are very large hoops. And they're intentionally large enough that they could lift them off their head.
Oh, wow.
So it's voluntary slavery.
Dang.
Yeah. So it just like, as I read this thing in the description of it, I was like, well, now that you say that, I have noticed that, but I never thought about that. It kind of gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, that's eerie, man. That's
and that's kind of like addiction is almost, it ties in with that stuff.
Right.
And I'd really like to reread it now that we're talking about it. It makes you think and then I feel like the inverse was something about like having been freed from that. Mm-hmm. So I felt like my first marriage was really difficult with the addiction part and stuff, and almost like I had done that and gone through all that trials, and that I had lifted when I got my divorce. It was like, I started another life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's funny. It kind of makes me think of it. Have you ever heard the saying? I don't remember whose saying it was. Some famous philosopher. And I'm gonna sound like an idiot. You'll Google it and be like, whatever. But
you Google it. Hey, it was Chef Boyardee.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that silly. It was like something legit, but it's every man lives two lives. Mm. The life you live before. God, I'm totally gonna screw this up.
That's right.
The second life begins when you realize you only have one, or something like that. The life you lived before, the moment you realize, the second life starts when you realize you only have one life.
Right.
But anyway.
And that was that moment for you when you kind of started a new life.
Sort of, yeah.
New wife,
I mean, I'm
new
constantly
kids.
having new, obviously, like you, new revelations all the time about life and stuff.
Which is good, right? I mean, it's the people that close themselves off to that, I think, that's not a good way to live. We should always be open to new learning and new understanding and new, if anybody says, I know everything there is to know, I'm right about everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even want to talk to you then.
Well, I mean, if you've lived enough, you've been humbled enough by life and by experiences that you've turned corners where you are like, I see the world through a completely different lens.
Right. Sure. And that comes with maturity, and it comes with, like you used the analogy a minute ago of raising children. I mean, it's like, that teaches you things, right? Mm-hmm. Your brain changes almost the way you think.
It's a multifaceted thing with raising children. It's like, yes, there's the joy of, there's just moments, You and your wife look at each other and you just smile and you're like, we're only sharing this one moment together.
Right.
Only the two of us love this child in the way that this silly thing this kid's doing is making us both laugh.
Right, yeah.
Everybody thinks their kid's the cutest kid in the world, but then there's also just like, the humbling moments about like what little monkey see monkey do they are, and like they're doing my behavior and their behavior is bad, that means my behavior like they're learning that from me. There's so many teaching moments from
of course
kids. But that in a nutshell, I wish I could have better recollection for what the description on that is, so if anybody's curious, Google it and read it, because it was pretty powerful to me when I read it, and I was like, for sure that's what I wanted. Because actually, me and my old buddy Wes, which is, man, I almost feel like we put a black mark on each other with that. Because I feel like, I'm human. I deal with my own struggles, and life's tough, but it's been really tough for him. He's down in the darkest.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, drugs and
bummer.
It's a bummer. But
he went to that show with us too.
He's got the same tattoo on the same leg. He did go to the show.
He was at that show. There was you and 3 of your friends and me. I think.
But it's almost like he's gotten the bad end of it.
Right.
While I feel like I pulled up on the stick and I've pulled out the nosedive of life. It's like he pushed down. And
Does he still talk to you? Or you guys still?
Oh no, he texted me or something. At least I think he was, because he's one of those guys that would be a different phone number every time you hear from him, and I was almost fed up with him, because he was at my wedding. He was in my wedding, and there were some shenanigans with him being in the wedding and stuff too.
The second wedding or the first one?
Second one.
Okay. Okay. He was there.
He was there. Yeah, he was actually in the wedding party.
Interesting. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he had some.
Maybe I just didn't recognize him.
Yeah. He was just, he's been a hot mess for a while, yeah.
Did he ever get married and have kids himself, or no?
He did get married,
and
then got divorced and never was the same. Got into some drugs and stuff.
Maybe that sent him on a spiral, maybe.
It did, yeah. He's never been able to pull up out of it.
Yeah, bummer.
Super bummer. He was a best friend, one of those guys you could talk to, that you could call and talk to about almost anything.
Yeah, he was like one of your best friends. Like, he's the one that I remember I feel like after that 15 show where I met some of those guys, I feel like he's the one that you still talked about after that, like later on.
You know,
like he was in bands and stuff. I remember he was telling me that Green Day was his favorite band of all time.
Yeah. He had a deep knowledge of music and punk rock and everything. He had some insane record collection at one point in his life, and unfortunately, after the divorce, you know, it all got sold off for debts and drugs and God knows what, you know, and it's really sad. I think he was almost going to open a record store at one point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That'd have been cool. We need that again.
Yeah.
Something like that. I drove by on the way here, I drove by where Music Trader used to be. And I was like, oh man, I miss Music Trader. You know, that was the fun stuff right there.
Trying to look at all the bands.
So believe it or not, we're almost through the music section. So I mean, I just want to let's maybe talk about if you could pick your 5 favorite bands of all time. We might have already talked about some of them.
So we did City and Color.
Okay.
They're just important to me at different stages of my life, which I don't think anybody can.
Is that because you feel like the lyrically, it speaks to where you are?
So they were very, just hit the nail on the head. It's the mood, helped me cope through my divorce and my single times, and then I bonded with that band on my now wife Crystal.
So when you met Crystal, she already liked that band.
She already liked that band. Apparently they were on One Tree Hill, and I didn't know this.
Okay.
They had some cameo on the show. They had their music in it, and she loves that.
How funny. That show. So you guys came to the band in different ways.
Yeah. I just happened on them through a shuffle setting on Pandora type stuff or Spotify. Right. And I was like, oh, this is a great song. I think it was Coming Home.
Okay.
That song, he had a great voice, and so I had gotten tickets. They were playing this venue here, Humphreys, awesome venue, Humphreys by the Bay, and that was one of our first concerts. Actually, I invited her to that one after I had the way her and I first started dating was by one of my other favorite bands, which Dallas's middle name, my son Dallas. His first name he's named after Dallas from City and Color because of our bond through that band. Yeah. But our other band that we bond through was Kings of Leon. It's Dallas's middle name. It's Dallas Leon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had bought tickets to that, and I didn't have anybody to go with, and so I posted on Instagram, "Hey, got an extra ticket. You know, anybody want to go?"
And she responded to that?
She responded to it.
And that's how you met her?
I had met her. She was a mutual friend.
Okay.
Of another friend.
Okay.
And
the look on your face is like, okay. I don't know how to take that, but okay. Yeah. You say whatever you want.
But she's like, I'll go to that with you. And I was like, you know.
Yeah.
I tried to play it cool, and I was like, well, let's go out. Let me make sure I'm not wasting my concert tickets.
Right.
We went out on a date.
Smooth move, man.
Yeah, we hit it.
Hey, you want to go to the show with me? Let's go on a date first.
Yeah. Well, it was basically a date to go to the show anyway.
Right.
But, I mean, what if it was terrible energy? And
right.
I took her to this concert of my favorite band.
Yeah.
And we had a blast at the concert and everything. Nice. And we've seen them 3 or 4 times now since. Yeah. One of them was really awesome. I remember in the pit. It was a big, big stadium.
The Pit?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not real familiar with Kings of Leon's music, but they don't sound like a pit band.
They call it the Pit, right?
Okay.
It wasn't a mosh pit, but you're down on the floor.
Okay, you're close to the stage kind of thing.
And this particular venue, which was, I don't know what they call it, Sleep Train, Coors, Cricket, Wireless, they've changed it 3, 4, 5 times. Right. Sponsored in one down Chula Vista. It wasn't a jam-packed floor. There was only limited access with your bracelet, and it was really cool to be that close to be able to you can see expressions on their face without having to look on the big screen.
Right.
Yeah, it was super awesome. That was for that the tour for the album Walls, I believe.
Okay. I've only heard one album.
Yeah, and that was our wedding song. When she walked down the aisle, to Walls.
Okay, so that's the name of an album and a song? Okay.
It was an acronym for We Are Like Love Songs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but then also in the lyrics he said talks about when the walls come down. So we had interesting start to our relationship. It was too early for me after getting out of my marriage, so I was still super wounded and not recovered and rebounding and all this and that. Right. And I just ultimately was just way too much emotionally, so we broke up. After we started dating hot and fast, broke up because I was such a mess. But we always had this like connection. So Crystal had all these emotional walls up. She's always been super guarded, anyway, because she has had bad relationships and stuff in the past. And so we stayed friends, sort of like platonically, but like low key had feelings for each other for a while until she finally like her emotional walls came down. She's like, okay, we'll give it another try. And so it was kind of like, you know,
and the rest is history.
Relevant.
Yeah.
For that one, but yeah, that's like.
Cool.
So Kings of Leon, let me see.
Well, that's what's cool when bands mean something personal to you like that.
Yeah. And then I think that's it. Oh yeah, I saw on your thing about first musical.
Yeah.
I listened to your first podcast and you were talking about Michael Jackson, and I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of my first, because when I was living in San Jose, I feel like I was like 8 years old, and my Filipino best friend who lived across the street from me in my cul-de-sac had the Dangerous tape, and
oh nice,
we remember dancing in his garage and grabbing our crotches. You know, you're just emulating, you just want to be like blowing a fan.
Or like the black and white video. I
mean, Michael Jackson was just, I mean, what more to say?
One of a kind.
I mean, I know you know, you're a huge super fan, obviously, and the other one was like my first punk show that I put down was like I went and saw the Mr. T Experience.
Oh, really?
And the High Fives.
Yeah, which Dr. Frank's in both those bands, right?
Was he? I only remember.
No, not the High Fives. I'm thinking of the Bombassets.
Okay,
that's the other band, Dr. Frank.
They were big at the time. One of those lookout bands.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which again, so 15 is what really got me into all that.
Right.
And then I went to now Screeching Weasel, the Queers, all these other bands that I still love today. That all got started.
There's only a couple big labels that had all the bands, you know, where there was like Hellcat, which was
Tim Armstrong. That was more ska stuff.
Yeah.
But you had Epitaph. Then you had Fat Records.
Then you had all these
Lookout.
And eventually there was like Hopeless,
City. Nitro was another one. Owned by the Offspring guy.
There was one more. I just thought of it.
Yeah, and all of that bloomed here in Ramona. In this area. That's when all that started, because I was delivering pizzas here, and like I said, the guy showed me 15. That's the first time I heard Milo Goes to College, which to this day is my favorite punk album of all time.
Oh, and
because Jeremy showed it to me out loud. He goes, check this out. All I had heard from the Descendants was Coffee Mug.
Really?
And that's because it was on an Epitaph comp that had just come out, and that, you know, that's off Everything Sucks, which is way later Descendants. Like that was kind of their comeback album. And I like it, but it's a real short 30-second song. I was like, it's all right. He goes, check this out. And I popped in that Milo Goes to College. I go, oh my gosh, this is epic.
We got, my buddy was a vendor for a beer vendor, because that Punk and Drublic Fest was a beer slash.
Yeah.
And so
it's like beer tasting and stuff, right?
Yeah. And they were vendors because they have a brewery. And he's a huge NOFX fan. So he's like, well, let's figure out how to be vendors. And then with their vendor bracelet, they could get in this VIP section, which was like a whole half of the stage that you could watch from this side and not be in the masses, and it was so much more comfortable. Like as an old man, you don't want to be squished up with all these old sweaty punks and stuff. We ended up staying in the back, but he snuck me and Crystal in and got us in with like we got a bracelet on. And it was like we weren't in there for 5 minutes, and some guy came around checking bracelets, and I tried to get Chris like, come on, let's go grab a drink over here, and I was so obvious that when I pulled, the guy just he just lasered right for me, and he's like, hey, let me see your bracelet, and I showed him my watch. And he's like, you gotta get out of here.
Oh no.
And it sucked because I was so stoked when we got in there. I was like, man, this is so much better. We're close. Every song was cramped.
This is just recently when you were at the
like a month ago
when you saw NOFX and Descendants and all that. Okay.
And so I was super bummed because I would have liked to be in the fight, because Descendants, man, their energy, they're so rad. And like,
well, I was shocked that video you sent me. I couldn't believe how good. I think it was Hope. Right, was the song you sent me, and I was like, dang,
even though
Milo sounds good.
Broke up, at least Descendants haven't broken. So I have another chance to maybe see him again.
Now, and this might be kind of being a naysayer here, but I think it's time for NOFX. As much as that hurts me to say, like, because I love that band, but their last couple albums, I mean, you can tell his vocals are straining. He doesn't sound at all the same as he used to. But I think lyrically and songwriting, it's still pretty decent.
Do you know what they played? I told you, right?
What they played? So what song you mean?
They played...
they played The Decline.
They played The Decline.
Yeah.
And So Long, Thanks for the Shoes in its entirety.
The entire album.
Oh,
wow.
And then they peppered in a couple other hits.
I would hope so. Yeah. I would have been disappointed in that show.
Linoleum.
A
couple other...
Yeah, you got to play Bob, Sold Out.
Did they play Bob? I think they did play Bob. Maybe. I
You got to.
I hate to say I was hammered.
Yeah. Well, they probably were too.
As many bad experiences. I mean, I don't do that often.
Right.
As they were having these at the beer stands. They had these like margaritas in a can. So much high alcohol percentage.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we're paying 15, 10, whatever bucks, like an incredible amount for each drink. Like, let's get bang for the buck. And man, me and my brother Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
$200 later, you're feeling fantastic.
I wasn't. I'm a cheap date. It don't take much for me.
See, the only thing that I would be like not wanting to do that myself. I mean, I'm not a drinker anymore anyway. But even if I was, I don't know if I would do something. Maybe a buzz, a little. But I would want to remember the show.
Well, that's the funny thing about alcohol is in the moment you don't realize what you're doing, and to yourself you think you're just having a good time, having a drink. I've done it at more shows than I'd like to. It's 4 or 5 shows at least I can think of that I've had drinks, beers at, and then you don't realize I have such a good buzz going that I wake up the next morning. I'm like, man, like, that night's kind of blurry to me. And it's a bummer.
Yeah.
Because I also try to not be one of those people that's holding their phone out and trying to capture the moment so badly that I'm not living.
You're missing the moment.
You're not living in the moment.
Exactly.
I've actually done really poor jobs recording because I'm trying to do this and watch the show and not stare at the show through my screen.
Exactly. Right.
That bothers me.
Yeah, totally. But usually when I'm in a show, what I'll do is I'll just record the first 5 seconds of each song because I'm weird like this. I like to remember what the playlist was. And I have like Word documents on my computer. I'm like, okay, I saw this band at this date at this place, and here was their set list. And it's just kind of cool to have that. I don't know why. I'm weird.
I just thought about one other band, which I'm really glad I did record a lot of stuff at their show. I don't know if you're a fan. I would hope so. Is Muse?
I don't know any.
Yeah.
Nope. So anything from like the early 2000s to the late like all those bands that were real big, I hardly know any of that music.
I would write them down and give them a shot too.
Or what would be the first album to check out?
Oh boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah, not like necessarily your favorite album.
I'm not like an insane Muse fan, but Wes, that guy we were talking about, was I don't know, 8 years ago or something, 7, 8 years ago. He's like, hey, I got tickets to Muse. You want to go? Like, yeah, of course, let's go. They're rad.
Yeah,
I like that they have very strong Queen.
Oh, okay. Really? Okay.
But harder, a little heavier, harder, a little bit of, I don't know. They embody the hard-hitting rock sound of like an AC/DC maybe, just like very full. They're a 3-piece.
Yeah, you got me intrigued now.
They're a 3-piece. He's got very. Some people might not like his voice, but he's actually a really good vocalist.
Is it higher or lower?
Higher.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I like higher voices.
I think you'd like it, and I like to think I hear Queen in there on some of their newer ones, and I hear at least as far as their show when I saw them. Back to like recording and getting pieces of the show they're like seeing Kiss or something. Okay. Like their show blew my mind.
Nice.
So I saw them this album called Drones, and they have a very strong political narrative to their stuff. And in the Drones show, like I didn't even really know the album. I might have heard 1 or 2 tracks off it from the radio or whatever.
Yeah.
I think Fantagram, who you probably don't know, is a female vocalist. They opened for him. Now they were set up in.
That's a cool name, Fantagram.
Yeah, they were set up in the Round. Oh. That's a really cool one too. I'm gonna write it down. I'll tell you after. It's
Round.
No. Fantagram, which was they have the girl singer has a album she did with Big Boy from Outkast called Big Grams.
Okay.
And they're really rad. They're super rad. But they were set up in the Round, which means they don't have like a directional stage. The whole stadium gets filled. So like they had a circular one in the middle, and then 2 little satellite circular ones on the side, and like a little walkway to get to the side stages. So as a 3-piece. The drummer was on like this rotating thing in the middle. Yeah. And then bassist would be over here, guitar player. Bassist had a bass that would like light up like LEDs.
Oh, cool.
Because they have this, there's a word for it. The whole like retro 80s with a lot of LED look. I can't think of what it is. There's a,
you just call it retro, right?
No, there's like a term for that style. But yeah, they had so drones. I remember when Fantagram was playing, I looked up in the rafters at the sports arena, and there was like these things sitting up there. I'm like, what the heck are those? Well, the lights go out right before they come on. It's dark, and then as it comes on, the very last track on drones was actually what they opened to, and it's this very monastery with his own voice like layered over it.
Oh, I love that.
And that's what it opened to, and these drones were flying in there, but they were these big balloons with lights inside of them.
Weird.
And they were moving around and like choreographing.
So it's a total visual thing.
Oh man, they had one song where a giant blimp thing came out, like a spaceship, and flew around inside there. You must have heard Black Holes and Revelations.
I might hear a song and I might go, oh, I know that song.
Yeah, Black Holes and Revelations, when that came on, like somehow it all happened so fast with the show, you don't see where things come from. These big black balls came out that everybody's hitting around on the crowd down on the floor.
Like beach balls, but...
Yeah, and then at the end, they were stabbing them with guitars and confetti was coming out of them. It's like seeing the Flaming Lips or something.
Yeah.
Because they're known for having insane shows like that, too.
Flaming Lips.
I remember you didn't even realize... I was just showing Gabriel Yoshime Battles of Pink Robots, like my favorite Flaming Lips.
Yeah.
But
those guys are weird, man.
Dude, he came up out of the stage. You realize at one point the singer's gone. Then all of a sudden he rises out of the stage with a grand piano with lights on the piano, and there was these screens that came down. They were like, what's the word for like semi-transparent? Translucent, or
I don't know.
but they would project on them, and they looked like holograms, and they had a screen that went around the middle stage.
Right.
So that at one point they had eyes on the middle thing, and because of the way these screens were coming down, it looked like strings, and there was hands going like this, like it was
cool.
Like it was moving the guys like marionettes. Oh man,
that's awesome. I wonder if they have like a DVD of their shows.
Yeah, I'll show you. And I went and saw them. They played a festival at the Del Mar Fairgrounds that they did for a few years called Kaboo. And when we saw them there, I was like, we have to see them. They were the coolest show ever. And it was the same thing. They had these like wall of cubes, but then the cubes started like moving all forward and stuff. And then he had like those glasses where it was like writing, like LED glasses, and super cool. They just amazing, made to be rock stars type. Yeah. Very cool. But yeah, I definitely, that's really cool. I would check them out.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out now. You got me excited now.
And I'm pretty sure that they're not, I know that you don't mind, but you prefer not. I don't think that, if I remember correctly, there's not really much, if any, profanities or anything. Or music. Yeah. It's good. He's kind of got like an operatic voice almost, like
Freddie Mercury.
Sort of, yeah.
Oh, we're gonna blow up.
Coffee's done.
Oh, is that what that is?
That's a coffee maker turning off.
Well, what we didn't talk about, you mentioned briefly, but what about that Mr. T Experience show? Was that good? I mean, was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was my first punk show. I'd never been to a punk show.
Was that down here?
It was down. It was at Soma.
Oh, okay.
I think it might have been at the old Soma because they moved the venue from one location to another.
It got bigger, right?
It's right next to the sports arena.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it did get bigger, and I think I saw them at the old Soma.
They were the headliner.
I believe it was Mr. T. Was a headliner. It was a friend of mine from high school. I was a sophomore and he was a senior, so we all looked up to all these senior punk rockers.
Yeah.
Like they knew it all.
Yeah, they were the ones.
Yeah.
So Mr. T. I mean, I like Mr. T. They're definitely not one of my top favorites. Yeah, right.
That's all I can think of.
And that songs like that make me not like them. It's songs like that. But they had the song later on. I think it was off the Alcatraz album. That was called Naomi.
I never was even that. I never was that big.
See, I like those, and some of their earlier stuff is cool too. Like for me, they're one of those bands like they have sporadic songs that I like, but I don't love that band. Like they're not the kind of band I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy all their albums. I'll just kind of have a select. Yeah. I'll buy single songs.
There's so much of an ocean of punk rock.
Oh, dude.
That even if you just stuck to the East Bay and stuff, and in hindsight, even looking through all that stuff, there's things that I listen to a lot, and there's things that I owned that I listened to like not at all. And then it made me realize in hindsight that I was a bit of a poser.
Yeah.
I bought stuff just because my friends thought it was cool.
Right. Well, and you kind of like, I don't know, like for me, and maybe you can tell me your perspective on this, but like for me, you know how I got into it. I saw Bad Religion open up for Pearl Jam. It was all over from that moment to even now. Like, I like all kinds of music, but there's nothing comparable to me than 90s skate punk. Like, nothing. Like, to me, that is the all-time greatest kind of music you could ever find. Yeah. And I will still listen to all those old albums. I'll still throw on Punk and Drublick. I'll still throw on Unknown Road by Pennywise and like some of the, Guttermouth. I'll still listen to Guttermouth, and it's just like, it's just the best,
and just like that, I was talking about anchoring too. A lot of stuff you'll throw on and you'll just boom, you're right back. You're thinking about well, like Milo Goes to College. I listen to that album now and it puts me right back to delivering pizzas. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Right? You puts you right back to delivering.
It totally does, right?
You would just drive around, listen to punk rock all day, and
exactly.
Pizzas,
and it was such a life altering moment for me. Yeah. But like my point is, like, for you, I know that there was a moment, maybe a couple years or how long that was, where you were steeped in that too. But then you kind of like, not that you ever like, oh, I don't like that stuff anymore, but you moved on to like liking like you're saying Kings of Leon and Mars Volta, and the one you didn't say that you used to talk about, Coheed and Cambria, you used to talk about all the time.
I had a friend that I moved out with after high school, and he listened to everything, and so it was very anti-punk rock. Like, it was funny. Initially you think like, oh, we're punks, we only listen to punk music, rap's dumb, country's dumb. Yeah. But then punk rock's an ideology that goes beyond the way you dress, beyond the music you listen to. At least, I mean, I've heard people describe it the same way, and that's the way I've always felt about it. It was always about some sort of rebelliousness or something, in that, who cares what anybody thinks of me? Right. Who cares what I listen to? Sure. Who cares if I like country? And then even you have all these fusion punk bands that mix hip hop or country or whatever. And so
like the rockabilly bands.
Yeah. So I started listening to Outkast. I really liked Outkast. So the album, it was a split album where each one did their own album, but it was released as two albums or as one album. Right. And it was the Speaker Box Love Below, and that I loved that album. Yeah. I was like, oh, I guess I like hip hop too, Yeah,
but Outkast is unique. I think. But there's not a lot of bands that sound like
that. Opened the door to me saying like, oh, okay, I can listen to this.
Yes.
And it took me a few years before I was like, oh, I like country too. And then even over the last 5 years or so, I got real into there's this other, I don't even know how to describe it. There's a type of country that embodied old country versus pop country.
Right.
Was like Jay Isbell, who wrote all the songs for that. What's that movie that Bradley Cooper did with Lady Gaga?
Oh, Star Is Born.
It's like a remake. He wrote all of the music for that and got Grammys for it and stuff. And then there's Chris Stapleton, who I'm sure you've heard.
Oh yeah.
And Chris Stapleton had just he was from a it's not bluegrass. It's a different style with more banjos and stuff. He was a songwriter for a long time and wrote songs for other people. And then he released his first solo album, just straight country. It didn't have all the banjos and stuff like he did and fiddles and stuff. Right. Which that's us rad. That's the Steel Drivers. If you've never heard them, if you like Chris Stapleton's voice, the Steel Drivers is so good.
So that's a band he was in?
Yeah, the Steel Drivers. And then he did his solo stuff, and I got turned on to it by a friend, and I loved it. Obviously, everybody loves Chris Stapleton now for the most part. One of the best national anthems I've ever heard sing on a Super Bowl. The one he just did last year.
Yeah. Much better than Fergie.
Yeah, I heard somebody who was in a box at the thing standing next to Adele, and they said he was 5 seconds in, and she went, "Oh, bloody hell," or something like that. In such a way that he was knocking her socks off.
Yeah. If you can impress Adele, I think you're doing pretty good.
So that kind of country, that's a different kind of country than pop. And that same venue, Humphreys, where we saw City and Color, holds a couple thousand people, very small venue. Chris Stapleton was playing it, and me and Crystal were able to snag. Crystal had the foresight enough to say, "You'll never see Chris Stapleton in a venue like this ever again. If we don't go to this, we'll never see him." And he doesn't. He only plays stadiums.
Yeah, well, he can't play anything smaller.
So we were able to see him like up close and personal. Awesome. Oh, so cool on his first.
So is Crystal the one that kind of turned you on to him, or
no? I turned her on to it.
Oh, okay.
Actually, ironically.
Okay.
21 Pilots. I'll never forget that. I'm like, before those guys, before that record,
before
Blurry Face blew up, you were listening to it. It's the same way, like I was saying about Chris Stapleton. Not like I own him or like I discovered him before everybody else.
Yeah,
I might have heard him a lot before.
But you had a little chunk
before he really hit the mainstream.
Sure,
he had put that album out.
Yeah,
we fortunately both loved it, me and Crystal, and we got those tickets and got to see him in that small venue.
Yeah.
Which we'll never get that.
Well, and that is kind of with 21 Pilots. Like we came in at Vessel, which is the album that came out before Blurry Face.
Did you get a chance to see him before they?
No.
Oh yeah.
The first time we saw them live was on the Blurry Face tour.
But I feel like a band like that, there's something to it about having all those people that love that music singing along. It brings energy to it.
And the thing that most people don't know is that they are. And I talked to other Christians about this, and they're like, what are you talking about? They are the most Christian band I've ever heard in my life. And people say, well, I can't think of one song where they even say the word Jesus. You're right.
Yeah.
But for a Christian who understands the Bible and understands the struggles and understands all the inner workings of all that, they are speaking a language that only other Christians will understand. Like most of the world is like, oh, this music is great. And they're right. It's great music. But there's only a certain group of people that are like, no, this means so much.
Now, being that you're well studied in the Bible and everything, I feel like it's from that. Isn't there a saying or a proverb or something about how like there's a lot of people that will try and walk the path, but but
wide is the path that leads to destruction, and many will follow that. But narrow is the path that leads to everlasting life, and few will find it.
Yeah,
something
and
like that.
That's I feel like a good analogy or metaphor.
Yeah,
whichever. Of how it feels to be like the masses of Christianity in America,
right?
And how like,
right?
What is it? This is poisonous.
It is
toxic.
No, and I agree, and that's the thing, right?
If that's not a term, it should be.
No, well, I call it churchianity.
Yeah,
that's what I call it because I think Christianity,
well, especially the crossover into using Christianity as a tool in politics, is filthy.
Right.
I mean, say what you will about how whether you think that the ideologies of Christianity should I mean, you don't have to say it in biblical terms for the same idea
of course
to be used in the government.
Correct.
But this whole fallacy of separation of church and state, which is
well, let's talk about that. Let's jump into politics. This will be fun.
Yeah.
So this is I can tell you off the bat, this is probably gonna be the one we probably disagree on the most, which is totally fine.
Right.
And again, like I've said, it's totally fine to disagree, and we can go back and forth with it. Don't feel like you can't hurt my feelings or whatever, because it's totally fine. So separation of church and state, right? The way that I have looked into it, and maybe you feel this way, maybe you don't, is the whole idea of that was to keep the government out of the church. It wasn't to keep the church out of the government.
Right.
Like when they first wrote that in there, it was basically saying the government should not interfere with people's religious freedom.
I think that should be a two-way street.
Okay, so you think that religion shouldn't be a part of government?
Joel Osteen or whatever mega churches should not be able to donate large lump sums, whether it's on the record or off the record, to politicians.
Right.
I mean, it's the same. You could say the same for big pharma. There needs to be and it's already way too in there. It's already in the lifeblood of the political system that I don't see any way without like a complete collapse of our society and rebuild. Like, I mean, we had a special opportunity when this country was founded, and it was a new area, and they had a war. I mean, it wasn't easy. There was a revolutionary war. A lot of people died.
Right.
And then they wrote this amazing governing document that's done pretty well for 200-300 years.
You talking about the Constitution or the
the Constitution, Bill of Rights? Like it was very profound and well thought out. It's been say what you will about where we're at today with that, but now politics and corporations and churches it's just way too, so like the what's in the best interest of the people is not necessarily as what we're getting out of the government. We're getting what's in the best interest of the people running the government.
So would you say then that like somebody like, let's say Elon Musk or Bill Gates, like somebody who's not religiously affiliated but has lots and lots of money, would you say by the same token they shouldn't be able to make big donations to government candidates and things, or would you say that's only true of somebody like Joel Osteen?
No, I don't care for that either.
You think straight across the board it shouldn't be run by these rich people?
Definitely, like if you look into it, and as far as like Bill Gates, like he's had some nefarious things with big pharma and vaccines, and I've heard some stuff. I don't know how much truth is to it. A lot of people, when you come to very I wish I had the vernacular or whatever, the mental, the wordage for
just make
someone
up.
for like Robert Kennedy right now, like he's very controversial. The stuff he's been coming out and saying. I mean, he's a presidential candidate. He's got crosshairs on him. He is saying some pretty out there things, but it's hard to discern what's truth and what's not anymore, seeing as how convoluted the media is, and trying to push their agenda, which is also strongly sponsored by big pharma and whoever else. They say whatever the people paying the bill say. Whoever the commercial advertisers are, which is not something that everybody was privy to over the last 20-30 years. But I think COVID, is there anything good that could be taken away from COVID having happened, is that it opened a lot of people's eyes to, but it's also created a lot of chaos in that, like, there's not this like, we just accept, if everybody just accepted what they said, then there's a little bit more order to that. But now everybody's like all over the place. Some people still buy into it, some people don't. And Robert Kennedy is saying all this stuff about Bill Gates has been sponsoring these vaccines that they've been doing in Africa on a people that has, they're going to take whatever they can get because they're so poor. Like, we'll take vaccines, but I'm supposed, stuff about, I heard him
treating them like lab rats.
Like lab rats, basically. Talking about the polio vaccine and stuff. Like I said, whether it's true or not, I mean, who knows? But I mean, it's definitely some pretty strong claims he was making when I heard him on Rogan a month ago or so. I mean, obviously, like creating a lot of, again, I can't find the words, but just.
Well, I mean, going back to what you said, I agree with you for sure that I think what COVID did was it opened a lot of people's eyes to questioning things, which some people would say is a bad thing. I think it's a great thing.
Oh, fantastic.
Because the way I live my life is I question everything. I don't care if it's my Christian beliefs. I don't care if it's my political beliefs. I don't care if it's anything. I question it. I don't just buy into stuff. Somebody says, well, this and this. Oh, well, I guess I'll just believe you. No, I won't just believe you. I need some evidence to back up that claim, right? So I think that's definitely a good thing that came out of that, because people... because we talk about right-wing media, left-wing media, all this stuff, and people used to tout like Fox News as the big right-wing outlet, and then you had like CNN was the big left-wing outlet. But even those now have a bunch of critics on each side. They're like, CNN just blew up and they're firing people like Don Lemon and all these different people, and then
Tucker
Carlson's out of Fox now, and it's like all this stuff's happening. Now Fox is like totally supporting a lot of LGBT stuff, which they wouldn't have done before per se.
They're all pandering, both sides, to get as many votes as they can,
which is crap. That's why. And here's another thing. So this is why I always admire somebody, even if they believe something totally different than me. If they just say, let's say they make a statement on one of their shows or something, they say something, okay. And then somebody gets mad and offended. Let's say a group of people gets mad and offended, and they call them out. And then most of the time, the guy goes back and he apologizes for what he said, or he changes what he put into place because he's scared of the mob. I admire somebody who says, you know what, screw you. That's what I believe. If you don't like it, don't buy my product. But this is where I stand. And like I said, that could even be somebody who believes something totally opposite than me. I admire the fact that he's standing by his principles, regardless of if people are going to try to cancel him.
It makes me think, like, Elon Musk or Joe Rogan or any of these guys,
right?
And they've stood by their whatever they said or
correct.
I mean,
I admire Joe Rogan for that reason.
The best moments in history is when Elon Musk smoked weed with Joe Rogan and lost all these, millions and billions of dollars in Tesla just from that. It's just funny to me that
and he's like, what's a couple $1 billion?
Yeah. I mean, if anything positive you can say is at least he's sticks to his guns.
Yes.
For the most part.
That's what we should all do.
He's human.
Right.
I mean, for the most part.
Now, right. I mean, the only time a person should apologize if they're genuinely sorry for what they said. Who's the country guy? Morgan Wallen.
Oh yeah.
Right. He got drunk and he let an N-word slip or something, goofing around with his friend. Right. Most people would say he wasn't being racist. He just used the wrong word, being funny with his friend. A neighbor happened to catch it on camera, and then this whole thing happened.
Right.
Now, in that case, yeah, you got drunk, you said something stupid. Come out and apologize, right? Of course.
Right.
But if somebody's just standing on their political belief, or if they say something like, no, I don't believe this, and then everybody says, oh, we're not going to buy your next album, or we're going to boycott, say, okay.
Yeah.
This is still what I stand by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's are you stick with your beliefs?
Right.
Or are you following the money?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I understand it might put you in a tight spot.
And that's what right wing, left wing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about ideology so much anymore as it's following the money.
Right.
If you get the votes, you're in the position of power.
Right.
And when you're in power, you get the money.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability to manipulate the politics for money. I mean, everybody knows. There's no secret right now that there's no such insider trading is not a word that gets thrown around Congress.
Right.
But they can line their pockets with all of this money from all these donations or whatever you want to call it, and then they can vote in. There was the thing with Pelosi and her husband, and they've got to put all this money into a microchip company right before they voted on a new initiative to put all this money towards because there was a whole crisis with automakers and stuff not getting the chips. Right now, one of my good friends is out in Phoenix building one of the largest microchip factories ever in the United States for us to manufacture them here.
For people?
Yeah.
Like microchips for people?
Just a chip maker.
Okay.
Sort, yeah.
So, but that's the speculation, right? That's where the conspiracy theorists were see, they're going to start chipping people.
No, just chips and stuff there's that. I mean, especially I know that's a thing too with some of the Chinese or foreign tech and stuff a lot of stuff's manufactured. They're obviously a large portion, even iPhones and everything, but the quality control and the, and this is my idiot surface level understanding of it is that doing the real nitty gritty detailed high end chips and stuff, it's not easy. And even I've noticed something that I learned recently, buying those micro SD cards, the little tiny ones the size of your fingernail, and they're graded at different levels. And I think when they get manufactured too, they actually look at them and analyze them, and whether it came out good or not, it'll get a certain level of. And again, I'm an idiot, so don't 100%.
Hey, I am too. So that's
take my word for. But yeah, stuff as it comes out, if it's a good looking one, it just gets a higher grade as far as quality of processing or whatever. But it's the same thing. So I think the point is here, also it's going to provide right now. It's providing loads of jobs to American construction workers. It's a huge job apparently, from what I'm told. Right. I mean, my buddy's moved out there. He left California and bought a house out there, and he's living out there now. Okay. Yeah. But I don't know where we're going with that.
I don't remember where we started with that.
Yeah, we're just talking about politics.
Yeah, just in general politics.
We're talking about Nancy Pelosi. And them buying all that. And then everybody called them out for it, and they went, "Oh no, this has no correlation." Yeah,
it's all a big coincidence.
Yeah, that these people get into politics. Maybe it's not easy to get elected politically. Right. You need money. You need financial. They said it's $500 million to run for president or something. Right. I heard somebody talking on that.
Oh yeah. And that's the only reason I haven't done it yet. But yeah, it takes money to get into it. But then you look at all these people and you're like, oh, you have a
$200,000 a year salary, but you started as a congresswoman or a senator, and your net worth was $1 million, let's say, and you've been in the job for 5 to 10 years, and now your net worth is $25 million.
Right.
How'd you do that on a $200,000 a year? Right. Oh, you're just a really good investor.
Yeah. So I mean, how do we fix that? What do you like? What do you think is the only?
Oh man, if I knew the solution to that, I wouldn't be sitting here with you.
Well, I mean, but it's almost like you almost have to tear down the whole system and just rebuild it all back again.
And that's what I was saying about that.
Start over.
That was a special opportunity in the development of the world, I guess, when we had the Revolutionary War. We were able to develop this system and build off it. But now the whole world's basically settled, and we're in our ways. And now,
well, but do you think that when they started the country, right? They left England, they came over, they broke away from the Church of England and all that, and they started a free country, right? That was their whole purpose. And they wrote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all these things. Now, when they founded all that, do you look at that today and think they started with something good? Like they did it right, and then now here we are today, and that we've almost corrupted that? Or do you think that it was bad to begin with, and it's just slowly progressed into where we are?
See, it's no one person's going to be able to do it. No one president. Because look what they did to Kennedy.
All right.
Say what you will about that, but it's
JFK.
It's, yeah, it's almost. There's been enough books and literature and stuff, and when someone says something without saying things, that there was speculation that it was the mob that took him out because of his stuff. But they're pretty sure, like the CIA. I mean, he was not about it, about the deep state, which the government under the government, and he's had kind of speeches in that Muse record. They actually play that excerpt about the secret societies and
nice.
And it they talk about that. But I think Eisenhower had like a great final speech when he was leaving office about that stuff. I think that's why the aliens are coming.
That's right, dude.
Pretty sure.
So you think that it was good to go in the beginning, and we've corrupted it? Is that kind of what you're saying? Because you're talking about people like JFK
I think
on.
It is salvageable. Right now, seems like the parties are imploding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It seems
which might be a good thing.
Well, we need another Donald Trump situation, but not Donald Trump.
What do you mean?
Somebody who creates like a zeitgeist or something around them in the same powerful way that he did. The problem is that he speaks to idiot rednecks. In my opinion.
Well, tell us how you really feel.
I don't know what that guy's magical power is, but
Well, I can tell you what his magical power is, at least from a conservative. Because obviously I hold conservative beliefs, and I would tell you, and anybody that's listened to this podcast before knows, I'm not a Trump fan of the man. I don't like the man. I think he's a jerk. I think he says stupid things. I think he acts like a little child. And even now, as he's going for his running for his second term, but the policies he's put into place and that he's trying to do, that's where I agree with a lot of that.
I think that he strayed a bit. He just got too mixed up. He's too high on Diet Coke or whatever.
Something. Well, he's high on himself. I think that's the problem.
Well, yeah, he certainly is.
And he can't handle a criticism.
A narcissist.
Somebody says, "Oh, Trump, you did this wrong in the White House." Oh, yeah, well, your mama's fat. He like says all these things. Like, dude, what are you doing? He was on
something, though, and he was able to speak to people that were tired of the system.
Yes, he came in right at the right moment.
The drain the swamp thing was that's what we still want.
Yes.
But he didn't achieve it.
Right.
He got sucked into the swamp.
Right.
Is what happened.
Yeah.
And
but what do you think about somebody like do you know anything about like Ron DeSantis?
We might need to cut the idiot redneck.
Yeah, we'll say I think it was funny. Yeah, I could cut it. But like, what about like Ron DeSantis? Like,
that guy's crazy.
Okay, so you don't like Ron DeSantis either?
I do not.
Because I look at Ron DeSantis and I think policies. I think he's good in the way Trump was good, but he doesn't have the immaturity of Trump.
He's getting sucked into the swamp too. He's getting wild.
How so? Like what?
I just think the whole culture of being in the political system, all eyes on you, the superstardom.
Right, but like specifically, what has he done that you're thinking, man, you shouldn't have done that, or that was crazy?
I mean, it's somewhere in the middle, you know. Like, he's not wrong for some of the things that he's pushed back on, but he's pushing too hard.
Okay,
and I feel like he's taken that state down. He's trying so hard that he's just getting way out there, you know, like.
Well, see, this is why I want to know specifically, because I look at Florida and I think, I wish he was in California. I love what he's doing in Florida. I think he's making major changes in Florida that are awesome.
There was some recent thing, and I don't know, like an article can sway your brain by the headline.
Yes.
And then you can read in the article and be like, well, this is kind of reasonable.
And you have to read the article these days.
Yeah, and that's I can't remember where I was reading the other day. Clicks are money. Mm-hmm. And that's what the media has become.
Right.
And somebody was saying that on a podcast or something. I mean, that's all I do. I listen to those things.
Right.
But yeah, it's true. You know, clicks are money. Clicks are advertising.
Of course.
And so they have to write these like just, you know, clickbaity articles.
Right.
But yeah, he's just, you know, and he's just doing stuff like I guess some of it probably is reasonable. I don't know, man. You need to read into it more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just off the top of your head, what's an example of something you think he's pushing too far there, or he's
well, I don't know why he's going to battle with Disney so hard.
Okay.
He really Disney's sunk in. They got roots, obviously. Right. Disney World. Right. They have a whole special district of. I don't know how the whole relationship works there, but they bring tons of tourism and money to Florida.
Well, of course they do, and he wouldn't deny that.
And Florida's just a crazy state, man. Anything that you ever see wild.
That's true. That is true.
You know,
I think it's the heat and the humidity.
Yeah, it's something, man.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy state, but
no, I agree. So with the Disney thing though, like, so would you agree though that Disney as a corporation over the last 5 to 10 years, really bad in the last couple years, is definitely, like, I shouldn't say definitely, do you see them pushing any kind of an agenda at all? Or do you think it's just
like a certain 4-letter word? Are they
just like
are they getting too woke?
No, well, yeah, if we want to use that word, yes. But I mean, I'm talking specifically about doing things like slowly putting in gay characters or trans characters, or
I have they done trans now too?
I don't think they. Well, I might be wrong, but whatever the newest one that just came out, I want to say there was a trans character, not a main character.
Yeah.
What was the newest one? Not Strange World. The one that just came out after
Buzz
that.
Lightyear.
No, that was before. It went. Buzz Lightyear had the lesbian kiss scene.
Strange World was the newest one.
Strange World was all about a gay relationship.
Yeah.
But then the one that came after that, it just came out. Elemental.
Okay.
I guess that had a trans. I might be wrong there, but
I think the progression. I like to equate it to like the civil rights movement.
Okay.
In that, you know, people were really offended seeing black people on TV.
Sure.
People were really offended when Captain Kirk kissed a black lady.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, that's because they were racist.
Yeah. And it's racism is the same as...
You think it's the same thing?
As being offended by a man and a man or a woman and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bother me. It's like, it doesn't affect me.
Right.
It doesn't affect me. You know? And before Disney existed and putting Strange World or Buzz Lightyear or any of those things, there was gay men.
Of course.
In ancient Greece, there
was... Yes.
You know?
But that's the question. I think that's what people have a problem with. Like, it's not so much we have a problem with the gay community.
Yeah.
It's just the question is, why are you putting it in a kids movie? And it's probably exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're trying to normalize it,
right?
In the same way that you say, okay, well, now the civil rights movement's over. Most of us realize that was wrong to treat black people that way. That was racist, right? Most of America would agree with you there and say, yeah, like, we should normalize the idea of black people and white people being friends and stuff.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Is it Muslims or something? They don't eat pork or cows?
I know Jews don't eat pork. Oh, Hindu doesn't eat cows.
Okay?
Right.
So they don't eat cows.
Cows are like their sacred animal.
So yeah. So
holy cow.
Should we not show people eat hamburgers on screen? Because we're you know.
Well, see, now you're touching on something a little different, like cultural sensitivity.
Right.
Which to me, I'm like, no matter which way you go with anything,
right,
you're going to offend somebody.
Right.
Let's say you decided we're not going to show anybody eating hamburgers so we don't offend a Hindu community.
Disney's
but then,
just trying to be inclusivity. They're not going too far out there. They're not doing trans yet. It'll happen. It may or may not, but maybe
I would say yes, as long as these last movies did well.
Yeah.
But they've been bombing.
Yeah. So I
think Disney's going to realize maybe we shouldn't.
It's the Bud Light effect, right?
Exactly.
It's a Bud Light effect.
Bud Light, Dodger Stadium. You got all those things happening.
That's just like whatever the free market capitalism. Like if people don't like your product, they will not buy it.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, for me, let's say I'm a CEO. Let's say I'm the CEO of Bud Light or Disney. I'm not even going to touch that stuff. I'm not going to tell anybody where I stand on any of that stuff because as soon as you do, you split your audience down the center.
Which is funny that you say that. What's happened with the CEO of Disney? He's not there anymore.
Right.
Iger's back in control until they put another person in power.
Right.
You know, he's temporarily took over. And I'm not saying it's for that specific issue, but it could be one of many. You know that. Then if they're going to do it, just be a bit more subtle. Disney, I mean, it's cool that Disney still, you watch Disney Plus. Yeah, maybe you don't got Song of the South, Zippity Doodah on there, which is, and I mean, I would really, as much as talk has been about that and they're changing the ride and everything, I really want to rewatch it and be like, okay, yeah, I guess this is pretty racist.
But it came out, it takes place in a time, it's no more racist than the movie Roots.
Okay, but yeah, right.
Right?
But then you watch Aladdin. You put on Aladdin. That's one thing. And when you start off, there is a paragraph, right, as you push play, and it says, some of the stuff in this movie is basically racist. On
Disney Plus?
Yeah. And this movie was made at a certain time. We like to show that our awareness, that we're aware that, things are different now, but also this is a piece of history, and they didn't just take it off. They just kind of put a disclaimer that said, hey, we know that we use stereotypes and stuff in this, which is cool. And
so you agree with those headlines on Disney Plus?
It's nice. Cultures change. Things are. I've thought of them recently, but there's nothing I can think of off the top of my head that things that you're like, oh, this was okay 20 years ago when I was a kid.
Right.
We used to say the R word all the time, which is not okay now.
Right. But who says? Who decides that?
You see
what I'm saying? Things become offensive, and more things become offensive every 5 minutes. Pretty soon we're not going to be able to say anything.
Well, it's like saying GD,
Sure.
Yeah.
But see, here's my thing. I have plenty of words that I don't like.
Yes.
And I don't want to hear people say them. I don't like hearing them. I don't use them myself.
Right.
But at the same time, I support free speech.
Right.
I don't think the person's right should be taken away.
The market will decide.
That's what I'm saying.
So if
that's exactly my point.
Disney pushes too much,
right?
And this is back to Florida, DeSantis, politics,
right.
And their battle with Disney, the right, the left.
Right.
I know there was a lot of pushback because of Disney's woke agenda, as I say. I don't think it's that bad. Yeah, they're inclusive. They even have a Pride night for Disneyland. Hey, you guys are, they have. It's whatever.
How come they don't have a Christian night?
They kind of do. I went to one at Magic Mountain one time.
A Christian night?
It was somehow through the church. I remember with my aunt Leona.
Really? Okay.
My uncle Sean.
Oh, back when they were in the Nazarene church?
When they were in the Nazarene church, I think they it might have been through the college or something, but there was a special where they have a special buyout night or whatever.
Yeah.
After this.
Oh, yeah. Magic Mountain used to do homeschool days just for homeschool kids. We used to go to those and stuff. Sure.
What's so special about homeschool kids?
Yeah. Nothing. They're just smarter.
No. It's just but yeah, it doesn't affect me enough.
Right.
I mean, if it was so oppressing to me and in my face, if they're putting it in my household and in my...
Would that bother you?
Well, it's
because you're obviously an ally to LGBT. You're not offended by anything like that. So if they did push it, is there any point that with LGBT that they could push so far that you would be like, okay, that's enough?
It's when someone tries to make me abide to their beliefs. They're trying to be... Well, hey, everybody else is doing this, so you got to do it too.
Right.
Not like you can elect whether you watch this movie or not,
right?
Or whether you go to the Pride parade or you stay home.
Yeah, and I'm with you, by the way, with all that. Yes.
But when someone comes into my house and tries to bend me over my bed and do something, I'm gonna have a problem with it.
Well, I would hope so.
That's an extreme example, but I'm just saying, like.
But what about the pronouns thing then? What if somebody's trying to force me to call a biological male a woman, or her, or she, or all that? Do you think that's a violation of my rights?
I'm not going to sit here and call you Laura because it's not your name. It's not what you want to call it.
But what if I did?
I'll call you whatever you want me to call you.
Right.
Because I'm a kind human being.
Sure.
But if it gets too complicated, I mean that, and I don't believe in. I think the pronoun things is wild.
It's gotten out of hand.
I don't care for it, but it hasn't bothered me enough or been present in my life. It's present in the media.
Sure.
I haven't met enough people. I've seen it online where people put it in the top of their Instagram profile. Him, her, and I think it's kind of silly.
Right.
Of course you're a him, her. Like.
Right.
I mean, if you're something other than a him, her, then.
Him, her?
Or him, he, she, whatever they do. What do they always put, like.
It's either he, him, or
he, him. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or
they, them, or
My apologies to whoever.
Yeah. I was like, him, her. Wait a minute.
Very
that's both.
Ignorant. But
it probably is. Somebody does have that. Yeah.
But
for sure. But what I'm saying is, like, do you think that laws should be put into place to make me have a consequence? Let's say if I refuse to call a biological woman him, or to call them a man.
No, I don't think it's freedom of speech. It's like laws shouldn't be in place to say what you can or can't. I mean, and that's always been the thing too. Free speech doesn't mean there's no consequences for what you say.
Sure.
You know, if you call a black guy and you're a white, the N-word, you can say that, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get punched in the face.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but that's also against the law to punch me in the face.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, there's free speech, which is allowed.
I would pay the consequences for saying it.
Right.
And he would pay the consequences for punching me in the face. There's consequences, but it doesn't mean
it's not legal.
I can't get arrested for saying the words.
Right.
Nor should I get arrested or in trouble for, you know.
So you think somebody should have the free speech to say whatever they want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I want to be a D and keep calling you, you know, dead naming you or whatever, it's not cool.
Sure.
You know, like, it's just not a nice thing to do to someone.
Right.
It's not nice to keep using God's name in vain to a Christian.
Right.
You're intentionally doing it to be offensive.
Right. So out of respect, you would, but you don't think it should be illegal.
No.
So
I think
so I'm with you.
That needs to be.
I'm with you.
I'm a big fan of, for the most part, like Jordan Peterson and him. You know, digging his feet in and what they were doing.
Interesting. You're a Jordan Peterson guy, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, with some stuff.
Yeah. I
mean, he's not always easy to digest.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
That guy's got an interesting brain.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he's got so much content that people are into.
Yeah.
That's how you make the big bucks. You have an interesting brain, and people care what you have to say.
I mean, I was a fan of him early when he first kind of. You know, he's gotten a lot of attention, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's getting more and more popular too, I think, as time goes. But so I mean, I stand with you on that. I think that if someone said to me, "Do you think it should be against the law for people to be transgender?" I would say no. Do you think it should be against the law for people to be gay? No.
Yeah.
I think that's dumb. And then you get back to the separation of church and state, right? Like, I think I should have the right to live my life under Christian principles, but I don't think the government should force Christian principles on other people or any other religion for that matter, right? But it's when someone comes to me and says, "Ryan, you have to call me this." I'm like, no, now you're not supporting my rights. Like, I'm supporting your right to live your life how you want, but you're coming into my world and telling me I have to call you things that I don't agree with.
Right.
Now you're infringing on my rights.
I think it's, when someone starts to bring like consequences for you not abiding by it, other than you hurt someone's feelings, you know, and you're a human with a heart, you know, and you look in the eyes of another human being, whether they're wearing a dress or whatever, or it's a woman that's lives her life as a man now. You know, you could still sit face to face with someone, and you're going to be respectful to that person because that's who you are. Right. You know?
But see, I can be. Here's another thing where I stand. So I can sit here, and I've talked to. I can talk to somebody who is of the LGBT. I can be friends with somebody from over there. We can hang out and talk and all this stuff. But I don't think it's not respectful to them for me to say, I'm not going to call you he if you're a she, or vice versa. And they would say, well, that means you hate us. That means you're not supportive of us. It's like, no. It's just I'm lying when I say that. You're making me lie.
It's just I will do it. It doesn't feel. It feels weird.
Right.
Saying Elliot Page is very strange.
Right.
Out of respect to him as a human being, which is strange for me to say because
you've seen Juno.
Well, I know him as his former identity.
Right.
And I came to be a fan of her as Ellen Page.
Yes.
I liked her movies.
Yes. Inception. Whew, good.
And I'm happy she's living her best life.
Right.
And happy with who he is now.
Right.
But it's foreign, right?
Yeah.
It's like if I transitioned, you would have a very hard time calling me Jessica, and your brain doesn't deal well.
I would be fine calling you Jessica.
Yeah.
Because I
want to bust my balls.
Well, no. No, but I mean, just because I think names are names. Like I don't think names are necessarily feminine or masculine. I think we've made them that, obviously. But even some names are both, right?
Yes.
It's Pat, right? That whole SNL skit, right? Of course, there's more to that. But I mean, like if you decided tomorrow you want to start going by Jessica, whatever. Yeah. I don't feel like by calling you Jessica, I'm lying,
right?
Because that is your name. But if you decide tomorrow that you want to be a woman, even though biologically you are a male...
I think it's the law stepping in and forcing you to do anything.
Correct. Or people canceling me or saying I hate the trans community or I hate people and all these labels they put on me because I'm like, I'm sorry, I cannot with a clean conscience say that.
I think just like we were talking about, like the free market, and if people don't like it, they won't buy it. You know.
Yes.
It will balance out, and life is messy.
Right.
And it's a funny thing, you know, like people that are, you know, living their lives as women that were formerly men or stuff. That's a difficult road to walk.
Oh, I'm sure.
Socially, and I imagine between the ears in their head, like they're a mess.
Right.
Whether, you know, they're confused or whether they've been living their life on the inside thinking they're a woman for a very long time and then finally coming out and then having to deal with the social and this and that.
Right.
I think many of them are dealing with, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, a mental illness of the stress, depression, of that, all that packages with it. You know, so having someone that hasn't dealt with those issues and getting a good, being able to find people that are like pretty grounded to have good conversation with, it's not always the easiest. You know, because I think a lot of that community's dealt with so much stress. Of that, so much.
Right.
You know, I can't imagine what it's like to be, you know, I can't imagine what it's like to be black.
Right.
And have to grow up in the world and with all that comes with just the color of your skin being different and being treated differently, being pulled over by a cop and, you know, being terrified every time you pull over by a cop.
Right.
I'm more so the more you see stuff nowadays, you don't even know what you're going to get with. That's a whole nother avenue to go down.
Well, it is, but I mean that to me that is one of the things I usually ask on here is what's the most important issue facing the world, and if someone were to ask me that question, that's where I would go, and I would say racism. However, I would go a different direction. I think we need to get away from this idea that cops hate black people or that there's this systemic racism still apparent
that's another
in
community
our country.
that's dealing with mental illness.
Sure.
Law enforcement.
Sure.
You know.
Right.
I mean, that's a whole other avenue of conversation.
But what I'm saying is that, and this goes back to the media too, right? Is you have these things where seemingly whenever a white cop kills a black man, none of the details matter, and it gets labeled by the media as a racist cop.
Right.
Even before we know any details. Right, and usually we find out later on, well, there's a reason why this guy got shot. It wasn't like the black guy was just driving down the street minding his own business, and the white cop pulled up and said, "Oh, look, hey, there's a black guy. Let's shoot him."
If they haven't, if they're so naive that they're not realizing what they do when they do that, they do know. Like I imagine,
they know.
If I was in the media,
I see what you're saying.
I feel like I would be hyper aware of my ability whether I'm a producer or someone who has the ability to decide this is what we're going to put on the news tonight, or this is not, how that's manipulating people's minds in the masses.
Right.
They have a, it's gross.
It's
They have a responsibility,
right?
And
to tell the truth.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, I don't know. We're so confused now as to what's even truth anymore,
right?
Because it's so it's so convoluted. It's just like the whole Fox voting machine thing and stuff, and them pushing that narrative, and then getting
Oh, you mean the Trump thing with the
Trump thing,
with the 2020 election?
Yeah, well, Fox got sued for $750 million or something like that, and lost
because they were saying that the election was lost.
Because the Dominion voting machines,
right?
That
they tried to say that Trump actually won, and that it was the Dominion,
which I'm pretty sure that. And this is completely anecdotal, but I'm pretty sure that there's been proof, or I've seen stuff in the past that voting machines can have backdoors.
Sure,
and that.
Of course.
But that went to court, and
there was proof of voter fraud. There was definitely voter fraud, but there wasn't enough, in my opinion, to put Trump over Biden. Like, I don't think Trump got the election stolen from him.
No, I don't think so.
But it was fascinating when they were doing the machines and the count, and all of a sudden everything stopped. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember.
It was weird, man. Trump was like on top, and they were showing the stats, and then all of a sudden everything just went down. Everyone's like, "What just happened?" And then like a couple hours later, everything comes back again. They're like, what just? And I think that's where a lot of people are like, "This is weird." It could have been a totally normal thing.
It's all weird. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't.
How can you trust anything?
How can you trust anything anymore?
Right.
And that's
right.
It's a worldwide sickness right now.
That's why
a lack of trust in the government, lack of trust in the media, lack of trust in politicians,
and
lack
other
of trust
people,
in voting machines.
Yeah.
And we're all suspicious now. Of everything.
But we should be. In a sense.
And that's now's the time that we need like someone, honesty and the best. I think the best thing we could ever do to bring the nation back together is to pass some amendments, even just the smallest one that says, in good faith, that says, "Oh, we're going to acknowledge that these politicians have been insider trading." And making money, and we're going to put a stop to it.
There you go.
I know Tulsi Gabbard is very much, she left the Democratic Party because she was so sick of the Democrats and all that stuff. And then she started appearing on Fox News. I mean, I don't know how to feel. I like her.
I do too.
Sometimes she says some stuff where I'm like, I could see her leaning hard into the Christian demographic all of a sudden.
Right.
Because
because that's the base.
They play to the crowd. Right. And that's kind of, as much as I liked her, and as much as I don't disagree with what she's saying, I'm like, I see what you're doing here.
Right, yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it's very dirty politician stuff, and just playing the game.
Right.
And you'd like to see people be above the game.
Yes.
But you have to play the game to get in the game.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that we're at a point now where we, as individuals, every single person as an individual needs to study and check out everything. Like, we can't just believe people. We can't even believe a study. Somebody says, "Oh, here's a study that proves blah, blah, blah." And people just say, "Oh, well, see, I believe this too. And here's a study. I can point to the study."
It's like, just because somebody wrote the words on a piece of paper or you find it on the internet, it's like, how can I believe that now?
Right. But see, the thing people do is they already kind of have a preconceived what they want to believe.
Right.
So they find the study that agrees with them, and they don't listen to any of the other ones. Or they find a politician who agrees with them, and they don't listen to the other ones. We need to stop doing that. We need to have a clean slate, wipe our whatever we think we know, which isn't easy to do, and say, okay, I'm just going to take the true information that's in front of me, and I'm going to use that to make a decision and to come to a conclusion.
Yeah, if you can embody that idea and can it into a class, which they may already do in high school, critical thinking, that's an important tool that I think kids have had teachers in school or classes that, that's the kind of stuff you think about, when you think about all the dumb stuff you've learned in high school that you're like, so dumb you don't remember any of it.
Right.
And then, those 2 or 3 standout classes that you did care about,
Right.
I mean, that needs an overhaul. The education system needs a huge overhaul.
Big. Oh, and it's kind of getting one, really. I mean, there's so much going on in the school system. Dude, we've had, whether it's because of everything going on with COVID, this started a couple of years back now, whether it's COVID or whether it's going on with some of this stuff they're putting in the school libraries, whatever the reasons are. As you know, Beth and I have been homeschooling for 25 years. So we had our own reasons for doing that, but we've had more people in the last couple of years come to us, whether they're Christians, non-Christians, doesn't matter, come to us asking us how they can homeschool.
I mean, that's
how to get into homeschooling, because they're like, we're done with the public school system because they're pushing agendas. They're with COVID stuff. They're making my kids wear masks. They're forcing vaccinations. They're doing all this stuff.
And that sounds like a very rich person thing to do. I mean, it doesn't have to be like some academy where they wear ties. But there's a couple of small. I mean, even though we're not like Christians, my wife is a bit more than me, but there's one right here around the corner, a quarter mile from me, that they run a school. And
is it a Christian school?
I believe.
So you wouldn't be opposed to your kids going there?
I wouldn't be opposed to it, no, because I don't think my kids. There's a difference between indoctrinating them and then them being educated.
Right.
So
what would you say that difference is? Like, give me a
indoctrinating would be telling them this is fact. This is the way it is.
Okay.
God did create us from, dust, and I don't know how the story goes exactly, mud, and pulled a rib bone from Adam and made.
Oh, you got it right. Yeah.
And that's the way it is. That's the way the world is, rather than like. I feel like it's probably somewhere in between. I don't think that's exactly how it happened, and some of it's fable and some of it's truth. And but I people take pieces of the Bible, they read this, and then they teach a parallel story and say, like, this is what this scripture is saying right here. And that's kind of like a pastor's job, is to kind of pull from that and teach a lesson in life about that. But I mean, that's interpretation.
Well, that gets back to what we talked about earlier about spiritual discussion. That's gonna be a good discussion when we get to that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How serious do I take this scripture? Right. Do I take it for what it is, 100%?
Right.
I mean, but this was also an interpretation of a different language, which, as we know, we can translate what our conversation right now into Chinese, or we can, we could have had this conversation in Chinese and then translate it to English, or you've watched a movie with subtitles and had the dubbing on at the same time. You're like, it's all mixed up. The words are different. Things mean, and you went back and did the Greek studies and stuff for that very same reason.
Right. Because I'm skeptical.
Yeah,
I don't want to trust interpretation.
I know King James Version is supposed to be the one.
That's the popular one. Yeah,
the popular.
It's not my favorite,
but it was King James selection that he said, this is what we're going to teach the masses, is this. What did you choose? What did you change?
And why? Right. Yeah. Right.
It's ancient, not ancient, but I mean, it's old politics.
Yeah. Well, people will come to me and say, hey, Ryan, what's the best English translation? I say, they're all translation.
So let's hypothetically, let's say the government allows the Christian church to continue to get intertwined with the government more, and we get a very Christian Supreme Court, and we get a very like all three branches of the government have right-wing agendas, and they have all the power now. They own the Congress, the Senate, the House.
That'd be great.
No. and now they're like, okay, every school, public school, has first period is church period, and we're teaching Christianity.
Right.
We don't teach any religions. All those other religions.
Only Christianity.
Only Christianity. Right. And we have this New American Bible.
Right.
That is our interpretation, and it's different than King James.
Right.
And it may not seem like much different. Everything seems the same when I turn to these pages. I mean, I have like I can't remember what it's called. Back when I was doing Bible study, I got some sort of a student Bible that had all this extra stuff in it.
Oh, like a study Bible, yeah.
A study Bible, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
How many times has the knowledge changed? And
yeah, those are great questions.
So we're going back to the question was the difference between indoctrination and education.
Yes.
You know,
which I would disagree. I would agree with what you just said. By the way, I don't think that a public school system should adopt and say, okay, we're only going to teach Christianity.
Right.
In the same way that I say I don't think that a public school should only teach evolution.
Yeah.
I think they should teach evolution, the theory of evolution. They should also teach creation.
Yeah.
And they should let the kids decide which one sounds more plausible.
The best sell for Christianity is just a wholesome human being that you see them walking the walk in the best way they possibly can,
right?
And you being, I want that,
right?
I want that in my life,
sure. But the problem is,
people in government that are pushing the. Sorry,
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I cut you off first.
That are pushing the quote unquote Christian agenda or whatever stuff they're putting into government or trying to manipulate the laws. At the sake of Christianity, and this is the way God wanted, and the Bible says this, and and it just comes off so poorly that you're like, well, I don't want nothing to do with that if that's the way.
Right.
If you live your life like this.
But the reason for that, I think, a lot of times is because people don't like what the Bible says. Like they hear something and they'll say, well, I don't like that. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes a matter of, so therefore, I don't like that, so therefore it can't be true. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think is the way anybody should view anything. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. The question is it true or not? Right? Because there's things that might be true that I might not like. Right? It's true that I can't drive faster than 65 miles on the freeway without possibly getting a ticket. I don't like that, but it's true. Right? And me not liking it doesn't change that that's true. And I can't sit there and when the cop comes to give me a ticket, I say, you know what? You shouldn't give me a ticket. And he goes, why? Because I don't like the speed limit. I think it's dumb. I don't agree with it at all. He's going to say, see you in court, buddy. Yeah. You know, because that's the law, whether I like it or not.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of that, to where we you know, you just said a minute ago about how you want to see a Christian who's living that out, and someone who says, oh, I like that. But the problem is, by living out Christianity, truly living Christianity out, that's going to make a lot of people mad, because they're not going to like what that stands for, what that means. They're not going to go, oh, I like that, I want to be like that guy. Not if he's anti some of Jesus' teachings. You know,
and that's like, that's, you know, people have said, and I do believe too, like, you know, Jesus comes back today, he's doing what he does,
right?
He's doing Jesus. He's going to get exactly the same treatment he got back then.
Oh, probably.
He's going to get persecuted and hung up on a cross.
Of course.
Figuratively or literally. Right. And
do you know why? There's one main reason why that is. Because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. That's the single thing that separates Christianity from every other religion out there. Because it claims to be the only way. And people don't like that. That's narrow-minded. I used to say all the time when I was a non-believer, I was like, you take your Christianity and shove it. Your stupid narrow-minded crap, only way.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are? Your only way. You found the only right religion?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
And by that, it's like, I'm just kind of interpreting, but it's interpreting.
Hey, we can make up words.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like walk like I walk, like do what I do.
Of course.
You know?
And that's a problem too. There's a lot of Christians that say they believe what they believe, yet they're not living that belief.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a big problem.
Of
that's
course.
What I'm saying. People.
Of course.
And it's funny too, like, I posted a thing on my Instagram story yesterday, which was a funny thing that I saw about California driving. It's like, and then you go with your speed limit thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, the speed limit in California may be 60 miles an hour, but they can't pull us all over if we all drive. if we all drive 80.
Yeah, there's only so many cops, right?
Yeah. We all drive 80, and it's like, and it was kind of a funny thing because I just think there's something special about that. They can't pull us all over. Right. And that's kind of how it is, though, because it's like, you know, people don't, because all the other Christians are not abiding by these particular rules, you know, because they've only chosen to zone in on 5 points, you know, whether it's like homosexuality,
that's the big one,
abortion, and whatever else. Those seem to be the two biggest ones that stand out.
Sure.
And it's like there's about 1,000 other things in the Bible that you guys don't, nobody pays attention to, and like what is it? One sin, sins are sins.
That's true, but there's. I think you'd agree that the sin of murdering somebody versus the sin of telling a lie, are vastly different in consequence. I mean, like you'd rather have someone lie to you than kill you.
True, in my opinion, but it wasn't one of the disciples like a murderer, and he was a horrible.
Judas betrayed Jesus. I don't know.
Wasn't there one?
Oh, you're talking about Paul. The Apostle Paul. Yeah, he was killing Christians before he became a Christian. Yep. Yeah, sure.
And so I mean that's
of course.
I mean he was an apostle. He's one of Jesus' homies.
Yes. Well, that was after. He wasn't killing people during that. Right. Exactly. Because there's redemption for everybody. Yeah. That's the thing. Even though Jesus says he's the only way, he also offers salvation to everybody. Right. It doesn't matter if you're Mother Teresa or Jeffrey Dahmer. It doesn't matter. You can receive forgiveness. Now that doesn't mean you can say, oh yeah, I'm forgiven and I'm going to continue on doing my sinful lifestyle. I'm going to be Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm going to keep eating people even though I'm now a Christian. Obviously, to me, that would show he's not really a Christian, right? Because that's I don't think God would continue to let you do that after you became a Christian. But yeah, just a couple things I want to go back to real quick before, and then we'll go into spirituality because we're already kind of getting there, which is awesome. Elliot Page. So I wrote this down because this is something that Bethany and I were like, because we're kind of the same as far as she wants to call herself Elliot. Fine. She wants to live her life as a man now. Okay. That's her own personal life. The show Umbrella Academy. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar?
I did not watch the last season, so...
Okay, so
is that post-transition?
Okay, so she transitioned...
Between seasons.
Between season 2 and 3.
Right.
Okay. Fine. That's your personal life. Whatever. Great. You're happy now. Fantastic.
Did they transition the character?
The first episode of season 3. And it was so abrupt... and it was in your face, and it made no sense. Right. She's walking down, she goes to some barbershop, she gets all her hair chopped off, she puts something on that like makes it look like she's got no boobs now, and she walks in and all her siblings are like, they're like, what? And she's like, what do you mean? I've always been this way. Did you? And then nobody says anything about it, and then it continues on the season like everything was normal. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That show is based on a comic written by the My Chemical Romance guy.
Oh, I didn't know that. I knew it was based on a comic.
Yeah, I guess the My Chemical Romance too.
Yeah, and I loved the show. We thought the show was great.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Like I said, we never made it to the last season.
My issue with that is that why do you have to? You're acting. You're acting as somebody who you're not. Yeah. So why do you have to take your own personal life and basically force the writers to morph your character into what your personal life is? In that particular case,
I feel like it's such a wild show that I guess it works. Because I guess. The show's all over the place.
Sure.
You made me think of, I loved the show House.
I never saw that. I know you've told me to watch it multiple times. I still have never seen it.
It's not like, there's so much stuff out there and you can be told to watch this, watch that, and everybody.
But I've had lots of people tell me I would like that show.
You would probably, it's a very, think he's a good character, but he's one of those guys too where you're like, no way that guy's British in real life because he does an American accent so well.
Hugh Laurie, right?
Hugh Laurie, yeah. But they had that Harold and Kumar guy on it.
Oh yeah, John Cho?
No, the other one.
Oh, the white guy.
Kumar.
Okay. Oh, he's not a white guy. What is he?
He's Indian.
Indian. Okay.
Yeah. And he was one of the doctors in the show for a few of the later seasons. Because he had 3 doctors for the first few seasons. Then he got some new doctors that were on his team, and he was one of them. Mm-hmm. And he joined when Obama was elected in
2016.
Oh man, it must have been way earlier. It was
2008 was the first time, yeah.
Because I started watching that show back then. He got on somehow he got a cabinet spot or something because he was into that. Mm-hmm. And they just wrote him off. They said the first episode of the show, they go, he just committed suicide. It was. I swear. They were like, nobody knew he was so depressed. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
What? I was like, that was so out of left field.
Oh man.
And that's how the writers chose to get rid of his character was nobody knew what he was dealing with. And I was like, what the heck?
That's horrible.
Oh yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, and that goes into this whole idea that where they're trying to say now that you can't, you have to be mentally handicapped. I'm sure I'm using all the wrong words. In order to play a mentally handicapped person in a movie now.
Oh yeah.
Which is dumb to me because you look at movies like I Am Sam, where Sean Penn excellently played a mentally challenged person in that movie.
Right.
Fantastic. Or you look at like
Ben
movies.
Stiller and Tropic Thunder.
Well, that's different. No, well, not Ben Stiller. Wasn't it Robert Downey Jr.?
No, it was Ben Stiller. You never go full retard.
Oh, that part. Okay.
Because his movie bombed.
Right.
Because he played it. He leaned too hard into it.
Okay.
Because the whole thing that Robert Downey Jr. was saying was that, like Forrest Gump, he was, he played ping pong really good. So that's not R-worded and
right.
It was just like all these like Sean Penn, like he was smart. He was but Ben Stiller went too hard, like he was too dumb, and that's why his movie bombed.
Yeah,
that's why he says you never go full retard.
Yeah, but isn't like Robert Downey Jr. plays a black guy in that movie, right?
Yeah, I think.
See, that's a little different.
That movie was right on the line because it's like they say you couldn't make that movie today. But the funny thing was, he did do a really good job, in my opinion.
Right.
They made jokes about it with the other black guy that was on it. Like, what do you mean, you people? Because he's that whole thing. But then it was also funny because he was playing this uber white Australian guy. He was playing a character in character.
Right.
He was an actor.
Yes.
Who was this like Shakespearean, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy playing a black guy.
Right.
So it was Robert Downey Jr. playing an actor who was playing a black guy, and it's just like it's silly, It worked, and
and I understand stuff like that.
Yeah.
I understand, like, if let's say you're making a movie about like Harriet Tubman, okay, and you get like.
Well, you're certainly not going to have a white person.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, or even that, or even non blackface. Let's say she looks just like she does. Let's say you get somebody like, I don't know, what's her name? What's the girl that's in everything? Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
And she's going to play Harriet Tubman. I can understand the outrage there. Because it's like, look, the whole point of this movie is that this is a black woman who's starting the Underground Railroad in order to help black people out of slavery.
I'm sorry to whoever disagrees with the whole like mentally disabled people need to play mentally disabled people, but Leonardo DiCaprio killed it.
Gilbert Grape. Yes, but see, today they would fight against that, and they would say there's plenty of people that could play that role, but then to me, again, it's not acting that way. That's what made DiCaprio's role that's so great. It's like he's not. Everybody thought he was handicapped when they saw that movie.
Handicapped people that don't look like they have Down syndrome because they don't.
Well, that's not every handicap.
Not every. But there's plenty of Down syndrome people that are very smart.
Sure.
Sure. Like, just because they have Down syndrome doesn't mean they're
of course
idiots.
No, there's levels to all.
There's levels, just like autism.
Just like autism, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So so you're gonna have a Down syndrome person play a stupider version of themselves,
right?
When they're actually smart enough to be an actor, and realize I'm acting. I'm on screen. There's a camera. So I'm gonna play this role,
right? Right. Or like Rain Man.
Or
Dustin Hoffman doing Rain Man, to where it's like,
we're like,
you could have got an actual autistic
character in
person.
Gilbert Grape was a certain degree of mentally disabled.
Correct.
Right? So, and if someone is mentally disabled enough to the degree that character is, they're not going to take very well directions all the time, I imagine, acting, you know?
Exactly.
To whatever the context of the script is or whatever. So
you agree that's dumb?
It's dumb to a degree.
Okay.
I mean, it's a gray area.
Right.
Yeah. Certainly you should be like sensitive to.
Well, I look at it like this: if a person who has that handicap tries out for the role and they're great at the role, great. But I don't think that should be a stipulation. I don't think somebody who doesn't have that handicap should be excluded simply because they don't have it. Like, you look at Quiet Place, the oldest daughter. She's really deaf in real life. That's an actual deaf girl.
Oh, really?
Who played that role, right? She did great. Fantastic job, right? I got no problem there.
That's like you shouldn't play the father of that kid. That's not really your kid.
Exactly. Right. I mean, you can go anywhere with it. Yeah. You're not really Cleopatra.
It's
how dare Elizabeth Taylor play Cleopatra? Exactly.
And there's certainly if you can get a black actor, get a black actor. There's plenty of,
Right.
But I feel like, at least with the particular role of acting and mental I'm sure there's certainly mentally handicapped actors. Certainly.
Of course.
They have to be.
But that doesn't mean they're going to be the best person for that role.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
It's the same as, and this goes back to the whole affirmative action stuff, where they're like, we're going to get more
I
of
would assume
this.
at this point, especially with it being in the conversation now, that they're going to do their best to try and do that. They're going to try to cast, a Mexican for a Mexican and not Rob Schneider with brown makeup on.
Right.
Which that guy's...
Well, see, again, I would agree that if we're talking about, especially if it's a historical movie about a historical person, I think we should try to get the ethnicity right in that case.
Do you realize that how many different ethnicities Rob Schneider's played?
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, he was like 50 First Dates. He was like the...
Yeah. Was he Hawaiian?
I think he was Hawaiian. He was supposed to be.
Something, yeah.
I think...
Samoan.
There was one where he was like an Asian guy.
Was that no, that wasn't Waterboy.
No, he was like a landlord or something. I can't remember. Was it Grandma's Boy?
I never saw that.
He might have been Grandma's Boy.
Okay.
And he was an Asian guy. And then he was in Big Daddy. He was like a Middle Eastern guy.
Yeah. The hip hop anonymous.
Oh man, he's one of the best characters ever. Though, for sure.
My favorite scene in that whole movie is when what was it? I'm gonna mess it up. Where he says something and he goes, it was the kid said something about Rob Schneider's character. Like, I can't ask him. He's not smart or he's dumb. I forgot exactly what he said or something. And it pans over to Robert Schneider. He's just like, he's got this sad look on his face.
Like it was like,
oh, so good.
Yeah. What does he say, man? I wish I could remember that. Yeah, that's a classic.
Oh my god.
He can't even read. I think he's
That's what it was. Yes. He can't even read. That's exactly what it was.
Do you know that kid? I think he has a twin. I think he was twins. But Crystal watched that adaptation of the Archie comic that was on, I think, Netflix called Riverdale. Have you heard of that one?
Yes.
And the guy who plays Jughead?
Yes. Is them. Yeah. Sprouse. He was also in another movie we saw that I liked.
It always trips me out.
It's two sick kids. They were in the hospital together.
When I don't realize it and then realize it later.
Yeah. Like he looks nothing like he did.
Why did I make the connection that the Goonies kid was Sam from...
Samwise?
Yeah. For a long time. And I was like,
yeah. And Bob from Stranger Things.
Yeah, he's great in Stranger Things.
What was he in 50 First Dates? He had the list.
Wait for that last season of Stranger Things. That's such a good show.
Well, I guess he got pushed out to like 2016 now. Or 2026.
Yeah, 2016. We should see it 8 years ago.
It got pushed out to 2016. Yeah.
2026.
They're going to have to keep rewriting the whole script because these kids, I mean, they're already aging out as it is.
They're not, it's not filming yet?
I guess not because of the writer's strike.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh, yeah, the writer's strike.
That's dumb, dude. Yeah.
I heard a funny thing about that too with Deadpool 3 they're filming, and Ryan Reynolds is a writer on that too, so he's part of the Writers Guild or whatever it's called. I know there's Screen Actors Guild and Screen Writers Guild or something. And there's some weird thing where he can't ad-lib.
Oh, really?
Because it's considered writing.
Oh, wow.
So he can only do what's already been... and it's so dumb. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure they're like... I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, you got to be careful, too, with that, because you can't go against, like...
Yeah.
And I do believe in that, because, like, if there's so much money coming in for those movies and stuff, and they're not getting their fair share... Right. They're doing the hard work.
Right.
The writing's the hard.
That's the hard part, I think.
Even the actors have said that. They're like, we're just going out here and reading what they wrote.
Yes.
Like maybe we're doing a really good job at it.
Yeah.
And they get the accolades. They get the grant or not the Grammys, but the Oscar.
Yeah,
awards.
They get all the attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no different than somebody doing a cover song as opposed to a song they wrote themselves.
But you're going to pay $80 million to Tom Cruise, which yes, he is the draw. He is the one bringing the people to the seats in the theaters. But you got to give your fair share to the people who are writing the content.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what it's all about.
I need to do it.
And any good actor will tell you, I can't, if the script is bad, I can't do anything about it. I cannot make a bad script an Academy Award winning movie. Yeah.
But again, it's just like the Bud Light effect,
Right.
You're not going to get a good actor to sign on for a script that sucks.
Right. Right. Well, I don't know what's happened before.
It has.
Sometimes I've seen a movie where the actor is one of my favorite actors. I'm like, dude, why did you do this one?
I really wish I would have gotten into like film in some way, shape, or form.
Me too.
Even if I was just the guy standing with the mic, or sitting in an editor's room, or bringing them rolled up sandwiches.
Yeah, right. Well, that was my ambition when I first met Bethany.
Yeah,
that's probably the reason she married me. She thought, oh, this guy's going somewhere.
It's so.
And now she's stuck.
Yeah. The irony, man, because it's like the things that you introduced to me and like now are like, you kind of when you became Christian, you pulled away from a lot and and then you've kind of like found your
my middle ground,
your balance in life. But it's funny, like when I watch like American Beauty, and I'm like, oh, Ryan loved this movie. He bought the screenplay or whatever.
Still do.
Yeah. It's just
I don't love all the content in the movie, but But to me, it's one of the best written screenplays of all time. It's just, it didn't come from a book. It was a straight up script that Alan Ball wrote, and it was just phenomenal to me. The symbolism, everything about it, the story it was telling, the acting was phenomenal. The characters were great.
It's just very real.
Yeah. Right. It hits you in all the feelers. Yeah. It makes you think. It makes you emotional. It makes you. I mean, it's great. Yeah. I mean, even the murder mystery part of it, right? Yeah. Like it opens up with him being dead, and the whole movie you're going, how does he die at the end, right? Yeah. And that's not even the point of the movie, but it was an aspect, you know.
I think like right now, I was just thinking about that movie and like a movie that I feel like doesn't pull any punches. I mean, as far as just like. I don't know, the suspension of disbelief type stuff where it's like, it's not Fast and the Furious. It's not trying to make you believe that The Rock can catch a missile. And, you know? He has a bad marriage, you know? He's fantasizing about a high school girl. It's just like... And I appreciate a movie like that that's like, they're just telling it how it is. Yes, right. You know? And like, so that's what I love about Judd Apatow. I feel like he's very good, and he's very good at striking a balance with 80% of the content he's done. I know he's had a couple flops out there, but of striking a balance between entertaining, comedic, and reality. Right. There's a show that me and Chris were just watching yesterday that I've watched it through half a dozen times on Netflix called Love. That's just, it just hits.
Oh, so was it like a drama, or was it like a...
It's comedy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's got that same like vibe as like a Knocked Up or something, you know?
Oh, okay.
And where it's like, it's a real life thing, you know, he gets his girl pregnant and he's not with her. And we also, just from being a fan of him, I watched that show on HBO called Girls, which was really good. It was also produced by him.
Oh, that's not the Lena Dunham one?
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What else has she done besides that? Because... I know her name, and
she's
honestly
been in
never
some stuff. Isn't she? I think she was a comedian to begin with, I believe.
Okay, I believe that.
Maybe.
She's so awkward.
She's weird, yeah.
In the show, she's so awkward, and it's like me and Crystal have like covered our eyes, like blushing at how awkward she is. We're like, I can't believe that, you know?
Yeah.
But that show made me come to like Adam Driver a lot more.
Okay.
Because I didn't really know him prior to him being in Star Wars.
Right.
And then, you know, he kind of grew on me. But then after I watched him in that show, I'm like, oh, he's good. He's good.
What's the movie with him and I think it was Scarlett Johansson where they were a married couple?
Marriage Story or something.
Yeah,
like
I heard that one was really good.
Yeah, I heard it's kind of a bummer, though, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the same...
But it's realistic. It's realistic. It's real life. It's just like the DiCaprio Winslet movie, what was that one?
The one where they were the 50s
Revolutionary Road.
Ooh, that one's rough.
Yeah, because it's showing a real couple who's fighting and arguing.
I just did a rewatch of Titanic because they put all the whole submarine stuff, and Netflix is like, let's get this back on our platform. We'll get a bunch of views.
Let's make money on the fact that people died.
Oh man, I guess they were making a documentary before they were even pronounced in. It's a wild thing, but that movie hits.
Yeah,
that got me all teared up.
Oh yeah. All right, so we got into a little bit spiritual stuff, but let's just start with you as far as your beliefs. Do you believe in God as a general?
Yeah.
Or you fall more towards like an atheistic viewpoint?
Oh, no way.
Okay.
I think that's naive.
Okay. Why?
I think that someone who's an atheist is somewhat... I mean, I've never really thought critically about this, but I'm just kind of spitballing on it, but I feel like I respect that they aren't just buying what people are selling.
Okay.
And they're free thinking, I guess. There's something to be, there's always something positive brought out of it.
Atheists are, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
But as with anything, people can get very glued into their belief.
Right.
And you could show them the truth. In reality, you could hand them, look, this is real. This sandwich is real. No, that sandwich is not real.
No, it's not.
I can't smell it. I can't taste it. I can't see it.
Right.
Right. And I think there's something to it, but at the same time, I think it's naive to think that it's what's the word? It's just, we're so full of ourselves as humans to think that we just get it all.
Right. Right.
I just think we're just ants. We're bacteria.
Right. in the grand scheme.
In the grand scheme. Yeah.
Yeah. So you believe in that God created us.
Something
created us. So you're more like intelligent design.
I don't.
It could be aliens.
It could be aliens.
Could be an energy source.
Who knows,
okay.
Man? Like, there's as silly as Men in Black. There's something to that scene at the very end where we're in the marble or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's being
right.
facetious, or what is it, like taking something serious with, like,
kind of mocking it, making a joke.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
But you're saying like it's something intelligent though. Like you don't believe in like random, just life spontaneously arose on Earth out of no intelligence at all, just happened one day.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm just so unintelligent and so unable to comprehend that somebody decided this is the order of the elements. Mm-hmm. This is what's heavier than this.
Yeah.
And this works together with this.
Yes.
And these connect, but these don't. Mm-hmm. Or these two things clash together, or this, and that there's like, is there somebody that, or something, or some grand energy? But what's bigger than that? Right. You know, like why does my brain even be able to comprehend that there's an idea that there's something bigger than that?
Right.
How could there not? So whether there's a God and another God above him.
Yes. Right, but there has to be something.
Something.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So you fall. So that's they call it intelligent design movement. Is something we're not saying what it is.
Yeah.
But it had to be something with intelligence.
Right.
Because of what we see in the world and the cohesiveness of things and the fact that we're humans that just happen to need protein and fats and salts, and that all just happens to be on the earth. We just happen to need water. Right. We just happen to need a certain temperature. We just happen to need all these things, and it's all here.
Specifically, a human being, like, totally.
Right.
But more so just the hierarchy. Mm-hmm. The hierarchy of elements and atoms and molecules and why they all work together the way they do, and why things are the way they are. And
so something far above our intellect.
It's absolutely baffling. You know?
Oh, it's amazing. Right.
The more that was, I'm the way my brain's finally developed. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about earlier about how we're able to think before we speak, which is taking us 40 plus years.
We're able to. That doesn't mean we always do.
Yeah, it's funny, like I've had the self-awareness to know that, like, I've said thoughts in my head. Don't say that out loud.
Right.
And I think that kids don't have that in them. I'm getting back onto that.
Not yet, yeah.
But they say that their brain's not developed till you're 25.
For males, yeah.
Yeah, and
that's a little earlier for women.
Prefrontal cortex, I think, which is like, they say is like where you're able to think thoughts before they come out your mouth.
Right.
And Gabriel over here.
Yes. Well, that's why I don't think anybody 25 and younger should really be able to make any life-altering decisions.
Well, and I have to remind my wife of that sometimes. He doesn't think like we think.
Right.
His brain's just not.
The hope is that he will someday. Right.
But anyway, back to
Yeah. So we have an intelligent God
and
who created everything, or intelligent something that created everything. So now, when you view that being, or whatever we want to call it, does that being care about us?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, man. There's so much thoughts to draw from, and I think. I think we were going to lead into like Christianity more specifically too. I think that
eventually, but I don't start there because I'm trying to feel out where you are first.
Yeah. I think that I don't know. It may be offensive to say naively. Bought in, went to Bible study, and just bought into the program. So what my friends were doing. It made sense at the time in my life.
And that was a Christian church, right?
It was Christian church, yeah. Okay. It was actually, I went to a Pentecostal, I think it was Pentecostal.
Oh, okay.
They were laying hands.
Oh, yeah. Speaking in tongues. Slaying in the spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty intense.
Oh, sure.
Do you know?
Was it in a tent? Or was it out?
No.
Oh, okay. You said it was intense, so I didn't know if you were...
No, intense.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
But yeah, it was good, and it served. I learned
okay. So let's talk about that time in your life then, because obviously at some point you must have believed some of that.
Wes and stuff. Yeah, we all went.
So what led you away to believe that maybe that wasn't true?
I don't know. At that point in my life, I was going between that. I was smoking pot, cigarettes. I was kind of, I was into punk rock. That was all in my teen years in high school.
Right.
I was all over the place, looking for purpose, looking for something, and I'm still doing that, just way farther down the line.
Right.
Looking for,
So you didn't really find it there, is what you're saying?
No, I didn't, and you obviously, I can't think of any specific instances, but they're just like, they're not, you can't pedestalize a Christian or somebody. They're not special per se because they go to church and they claim to be Christian and they are trying to walk this life,
right,
or walk this walk, and but it's man, I don't know. Next question.
It's heavy stuff here.
It is heavy. It's heavy to try and take a deep dive into my mind and and pull out the thoughts that describe it best.
Yeah, sure. So I asked you a minute ago, if you think this being cares about us, and you said you don't know, but do you hope that he cares? Like if you can develop in your mind that there is a God, are you hoping that God cares about you? Or do you kind of want him to leave you alone and just stay out of your life? Or do you want someone who's involved in your life?
Yeah, I hope he cares about me if that's... Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a funny thing too. That's, the whole possibilities, endless possibilities type thought. I mean, you can get way out there, right? People... there's that movie, The Beach.
That's a good one.
And he lays on the beach with that girl at that one point, and he's looking up at the stars, and and she kind of condescendingly says, "Yeah, you see this, all the girls trying in their pants."
Right.
But he's like, "Oh, you look in the stars, anything you can think of probably exists out there on another planet. Right. Purple elephant with dinosaur legs or whatever. Whatever you want to think of. If your mind can think of it, maybe somewhere out there and it exists, in the endless universe." And it's like, if my mind can think of it, it probably exists. So if my mind could think of, there's someone out there looking out for me, he probably exists.
Right.
He has to.
So you're not saying that your thoughts are what's creating that reality. You're saying that the reason you're having that thought is because that reality already exists somewhere. And that's what's causing you to think about it.
Yeah.
Like someone who doesn't ever gone to church, doesn't ever read the Bible, doesn't anything, but says to themselves, there is a God. You think that revelation comes to them not because some missionary came and preached at them, not because they were brought to church by their parents.
Yeah.
It was because something out there put that thought in their head.
I think that, and I don't want to take specific target at Christianity, but I think that as a whole, there is something bigger.
Sure.
And that all signs point to that. From all religions, whether it's from natives back in the day or whatever, there's always been something bigger. Right. And everybody kind of knows it.
So you would think all the different gods, that the different names of God, like Allah, Jesus,
I just don't think
these things are all the same in your worldview?
I think that possibly a lot of them are just fabricated.
Okay.
I'm not saying for sure they are or not, but I'm just saying that everybody's aware that there's got to be something bigger. There's certainly charismatic people over the course of history that have the ability to sway the minds and hearts of people, possibly write books.
Sure.
And there's enough sheep that will follow.
Right.
And if you plant a seed well enough in society, that tree will grow.
Right.
And, not, like I said, not the point of Christianity.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
No, I would agree with you that I think a lot of Christians are exactly what you just described. They only believe what they believe because their parents told them to believe it, and They've never looked into it for themselves. They just, no, this is what I've always believed.
I could very well go full circle and come right back to it. I mean, in my spiritual journey.
Sure.
I do not count it out.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
You know?
You're open-minded.
And again, like I've said a couple times over the course of this podcast, is like, I feel like it's somewhere in the middle. You know, just like King James Version. Or any version of the Bible.
Right.
It's written by man. Inspired by God, written by man. Right?
Yeah.
And so...
Yes. I like to say penned by man.
Penned by man. So we're certainly very fallible, you know?
Of course.
Unless Jesus himself wrote the Bible. Even then, you know, he was still flesh and blood.
Sure.
And still, you know...
Yeah. But he was perfect. If what the Bible says is true.
Yeah. If what the Bible says.
That to me, everything hinges on that. Because if the Bible's not true, how can I really have any evidence or proof of anything I believe? I can say, yeah, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, and somebody says, well, why? Oh, I just do. That's not evidence.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's true. Oh, it doesn't matter. You see what I'm
I
saying?
feel like maybe I've heard you talk, because the only other podcast I listened to that you did was I listened to one with Aiden.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one for spirituality too, because
really
he's
good.
in a place where he's seeking and he doesn't believe in a lot of that stuff that I believe. So,
and as confused as I think he has been, like I think he's an incredibly intelligent young man.
Oh, he is.
Yeah,
that's what's scary.
And I think he'll find his way.
He will.
He's smart.
He is.
He'll figure it out.
Yes.
But you know, it's always been the argument too, like that uncontacted tribe here or there, like. Are they just destined for damnation because they have not had...
Well, here, I'll give you my answer to that.
Yeah.
Here's my answer to that. And it's going to be biblical. So, again, this all hinges on whether or not the Bible is true. So, in Romans chapter 1, it talks about how creation itself attests that there's a God. That's the bare bones, right? Like a person...
It's implanted in...
Well, a person should be able to go outside and look around and come to the conclusion you've come to. Like you said, you believe in something intelligent creating everything. It doesn't put a name on the God. It doesn't put a religion on anything. There's no Bible involved. It's simply just, wow, look at this. Something greater than me must have created all this and must have created me and the sun and the moon and all this stuff, right? And that alone, to me, if a person comes to that conclusion, that's when the Lord will start to contact them through their heart, through their mind, whatever, that he's going to reach out to them, right? And that goes for someone out in the bush country, or it goes for somebody in a Christian church in America. It's the same thing. Their heart has to respond and say yes to God, or it's going to say no.
So that's what I'm saying. Like with let's just say indigenous cultures, before Christianity was ever spread to them, they had beliefs and this or that. They felt or knew that there was something bigger than them, a creator.
Right. Yeah. So I would say that if their hearts were genuinely seeking the truth, that the Lord, whether even before Jesus, the Lord ministered to them in some way, shape, or form, and that they did become true believers in God, and that they are in heaven. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Is there like a developmental age where you're suddenly accountable for yourself? So
well, see, that's another thing, that this is probably the biggest thing that I go at odds at with most of the Christian community, because the Christian community has come up with something called the age of accountability, and it's usually around 12 or 13, and they say that if a child dies before that age of accountability, they saved. Just straight go to heaven. Yeah, they're saved automatically and they go to heaven. I don't think that's in the Bible anywhere. It's not in there. People make that up because they cannot fathom the idea of a young child going to hell. Which I'm not saying I'm sitting here thinking, oh, that's a wonderful thought. I just love that. I'm going to get some popcorn and think about that for a while. No, it's a horrible thought. But Scripture is very clear that it's a heart response. Your heart either says, yes, God, I want you, or no, get away from me, because you're telling me no to things I like.
Crazy thing, too, is like, he gave me that heart.
Correct.
He made me love my 3-year-old.
Right. Well, he gave you the capacity to love your 2-year-old. Right. You don't have to love your 2-year-old.
Right.
You do because you're a good dad.
And that's a hurt.
Some parents don't love their children. Right.
If that was the and we're not saying it is or isn't the case, but if it was the case, hypothetically, that my 3-year-old, something happens to him.
Right.
And because it doesn't say in the Bible that he goes to heaven and he goes to hell, then I'd rather go to hell.
Right.
Because I'm going with... Because,
of course.
Because I've known that flesh and love and real love way more strongly than I've ever felt.
Sure.
The love from this, and it's tricky too because, just in our in our cynical way of like not trusting my own feelings or thoughts and knowing that I am fallible. I can't trust my memory.
Sure.
My memory is fallible.
Yeah.
I fabricate things.
Yep.
I think I'll hear someone's story 5 times and think that I was there.
Right. Right.
If I've heard it enough times.
Yes.
Because you've built the story and you're like, I remember that car, that red car that I've heard them talk about.
And that's something we've all talked about before with your dad.
Yeah.
Because your dad was always big on saying, remember that time we were doing this? And Bethany's like, you weren't even there. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell him that because he would be like, yes, I was. What are you talking about?
I kill myself. Every time I tell stories that I realize there's something like that. But, like, I don't trust my own thoughts and feelings. I mean, I had a bad moment right after the layoff.
Just like a week and a half ago?
Yeah, so I'm emotionally all over the place about the whole thing. Ultimately relieved and ready to move on to the next chapter. But there was certainly, like, I don't think I realized the depression that had come over me over the few months. I knew I was going through struggle. I had very difficult days that brought me to tears of stress.
Sure.
And but at the same time, I had a really bad day. I was thinking just not great thoughts, and I knew, which is I can get off all these tangents.
It's great, dude.
My ADD, but
that's what I love about this.
There's in meditation. I read this book. Can't remember the name of it, but Eckhart Tolle.
Oh yeah. Power of One.
Power of Now.
Oh, Power of Now. That's what it was. Yeah.
But he describes it as like who you are. Like there's multiple personalities basically. Like your thoughts are not who you are. So in that sense, someone, and I've experienced it in whether it was true. Whether it was true presence of God when I was in that Pentecostal church and you're feeling it. If I remember this correctly, I think I had him like pray and I felt like I felt something and you fall down, but it's you can be so caught up in the moment and emotionally.
Absolutely.
And so
yes. So you can't trust your feelings to know, that was definitely God.
Right. And so that's the tricky thing about it. You have your personal experience. Ryan has his personal experience with your relationship with God.
Right.
And you talk to him verbally, mentally.
Sure.
He hears your thoughts. He's like Santa Claus. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're like, he is Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But but then at the same time, you're like, is this baloney?
Right.
Am I fabricating this because I want to believe so bad?
Well, okay, so this will bring us back to something you said earlier, and I'm glad you brought us back to that. I'm just like you, and I think everybody should be this way. I can't trust my thoughts. I can't trust my feelings. I can't trust any of that. Most people say, I trust myself. I say, well, you're crazy then. And I'll say, have you ever let yourself down before? Oh, of course, all the time. Then why do you trust yourself, right? If people make that statement, I trust myself. I don't trust myself at all. But what I do trust, and this is where people say, he's one of those religious fanatics, I trust the scriptures 100% from the original languages.
Right.
100%. And I think God left that for us, for the main purpose for leaving that for us is so that we can test everything we think we know, everything we think we believe, everything we feel to that. And say, this is the one thing on the planet that I can look at and say, I know this is true.
Yeah.
And I don't just say that like a leap of faith.
Why do you trust the human being that wrote?
Well, I don't trust the human being that wrote that because I think that God wrote it through men. Men were used to write.
That's a tough part. Is like you think,
it is a tough part.
You think God wrote.
Okay, yes, but see, I went down this road. I spent years.
I know it's
trying to poke holes in the scriptures and trying to prove them wrong and try to say, well, this was written by man. How do I know this? And the deeper I got into that of how the scriptures were put together, how they were brought about, all this stuff, the more strong I grew in my confidence that they could be trusted, even in the English. But if I have a problem, I'm like, well, I don't know, this one, or let's say the King James says something and the NIV says something else. Yeah. I always go back to the Greek and say, what does it say there? You know what I'm saying?
And I'm looking at this book sitting on my table right here, like the Stoics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, like, we're so pompous and so full of ourselves in 2023 thing. We're the best iteration of man that's ever existed.
I don't think that.
Well, I'm just saying, people are very... there's a word and I can't find it that and just like I said,
arrogant.
Yep. Arrogant. Thank you.
Right.
Human beings are extremely arrogant, thinking we are just the bee's knees. And,
right. Which is weird because bees don't even have knees. Right. Where does that phrase even come from?
Because a bee with knees would be better than every other.
That would be the best bee there was.
It's
right?
like an opposable thumb.
Yeah, right, exactly. But yes, we do, and that's why I don't trust people. And you say, well, how can I trust that person? But see, the thing about that, and this is just a little snippet. So in the book of Isaiah, Isaiah wrote, if we say Isaiah is the one who wrote the book of Isaiah, he wrote that the earth is a sphere and it hangs in nothingness.
So he knew.
So we got two options here. Either one man in the whole entire world knew at that time that the earth was a sphere, while the rest of the people thought it was flat.
But you're also assuming we haven't been around for a lot longer and known a lot more prior to his existence too, because
so like there was a time where people knew it was round and then they started to think it was flat, and then they went back.
They don't know how a lot of these megaliths were built. Some of them they're dating 20,000 years BC.
Well, that was obviously aliens, but that's a side tangent. But the point is, so I think that's because maybe even when Isaiah wrote that, he might have read what he wrote and go, what?
Yeah, I was just reading.
Is that even true, God? I don't even know.
About this treasure hunter guy. And I really wish there was more context to the article I was reading, because he said he got some map that this astronaut had made of spots where he thought there was stuff under the ocean, and I didn't get the context, like, how did this guy make this map? And this guy was checking these spots out, trying to see if he could find shipwrecks or whatever, treasure and stuff, and he came across this, what appears to be a ancient civilization almost 300 feet under the water. And
it's awesome.
Yeah, which makes sense.
It's Atlantis.
Like, he could be.
And that stuff's
but
fine.
I was going back to like ancient wisdom, the Stoics, back ancient Rome, philosophers. I mean, if you take away all the noise too of what in modern society, the internet, media, movies,
just go out in the boonies,
everything.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, you quiet, like, and I yearn for an opportunity to go to one of these like no cell phone retreats.
Yeah,
and I quiet my mind,
like a walkabout.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I feel like I need it.
Sure.
It's very stressful to live in modern society.
Yeah. Yes.
Very stressful.
Right.
And I don't think it's just in the same way I knew I was dealing with a lot of stress with that job, and now that I got out of it, I feel much better. I think it would be the same. I know I'm going through a lot of stress with day-to-day culture. I think Americans are put to the test of, I know we live a great life compared to sweatshops and stuff like that, but it's still very stressful.
There's always somebody better off than you, and there's always somebody worse off than you.
But get off track. But I think that Christianity is an amazing blueprint to live your life. And if everybody could abide by that blueprint, we'd probably be a pretty great society. Because and I'm saying that people really live like Jesus lived.
Right. Well, I've often said that if everybody on the planet took just the one principle of put others' needs above your own, if everybody on the planet did that, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Nobody's looking out for themselves. They're only concerned with how they can help everybody else in the world. Wow, dude, we'd be fighting over that. No, I want to help that guy. No, I want to help him. It's just, I want to feed him my dinner so I can go hungry.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Pelosi are helping out those other corporations a ton. So it's like, I don't understand why they're helping those corporations get their laws passed. You know, to make sure that we all inject some untested nonsense.
I'm not a fan of either of those women, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just.
Oh man.
Oh, that sounds so sexist.
But before we leave Eckhart Tolle, right? Yeah. Tell me that guy's not from Middle Earth. Have you seen the way that guy looks?
Does he look like a hobbit?
Something.
Yeah.
Or an elf or something. He's got to be from Middle Earth.
I both listened to his audiobook of that, and I read it. It was good. And I would like to get back to some of that too, because I was doing just 5 or 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation in the morning, being able to get out of your mind and focus on
And here's what I'll say. And this, okay, let me maybe we'll end here. But this is what something you said earlier about. I forgot specifically what you said, but about, and I was telling you that Christianity is not about the betterment of self, right? And things like Eckhart Tolle and some of these self-help guru kind of guys, I believe wholeheartedly that they can give you tools like mindfulness meditation, these kind of things that are definitely going to help your human life while you're here. They're going to give you less stress. You're probably going to be happier. But then I come to this, and again, this all hinges on whether or not it's true. If Christianity is true, if the Bible's true, that all that mindfulness stuff and all the happiness on earth is only going to get you to the end of your life on earth. That's as far as it's going to take you. And the best you could say is I had a happy life, and then I died. And if the Bible's true, and then I went to hell. Right? I mean, so Christianity is not about the betterment of self, although I think when a person follows Christ, like you said, some of the principles he teaches,
one of the byproducts
is you're going to be a better person. You're going to be concerned for the welfare of others. You're going to be giving and loving, and just the blueprints of how to be a father and a husband laid out in Scripture has helped me immensely with those roles.
I would say that, let's say, the mindfulness or the self-care that goes in line with, as much as unstudied as I am, I know bits and pieces of Christian belief, and stuff, but they have this belief that your body is a temple or whatever.
Temple of the Holy Spirit. Because when you're saved, the Holy Spirit dwells within you. Which that's what makes a person saved or unsaved. It's not about whether you go to church or whether you read the Bible.
I don't like when people get tattoos and stuff. That's so desecrating a holy temple.
Well, see, again, that to me, that's
an interpretation.
Find me in the Bible where it says don't get a tattoo.
Right.
You find that scripture, and then I'll tell you shouldn't have tattoos.
Yeah.
You're not going to find it in there.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You discount the mindfulness as to not that's going to help you get to the end of your life. I mean, you being a better human being and in your time, let's say, by Christian standards, you're going to be flesh and blood for this period, and then hopefully if you live your life the right way, you move on to the next stage, and you're not cast to hell or whatever. And but you're going to be a better Christian if you are take care of yourself, you're mindful. You're gonna think better, you're gonna make better decisions. You're not going to be confused by your pleasures of the flesh
exactly. And that's why I look at and
that's why
stuff.
Your thoughts and who you are two separate entities. Like if you do have an opportunity, if you so desire to look into Tolle's teachings, even though it's on the surface level, you don't have to read his book. That's one great thing I read. Tangent about somebody talking about it was Ryan Holiday, actually, this guy, the author. He talked about books. He's like, how many times have you read a book and you're like, I just read this whole page and I'm going to reread it because I don't remember or that paragraph. It doesn't matter. You're going to extract what you need to extract from that book, and don't punish yourself. And it was a really great thing for me to hear, because I think everybody's dealt with that reading a book.
Of course.
It's the same thing. So Toll, you can Tolle, I don't know whatever you say.
I thought it was Tolle, but I might be wrong.
Tolle. Yeah. You want to say Toll because the E makes the silent.
Yeah, it should be Trolley.
I gotta see what this guy
Oh yeah, look him up, man. I swear he's from Middle Earth.
So
he's got to be.
Anyhow, but I think that you shouldn't discount anything, you know.
I agree.
Should never be.
I agree.
You know.
But like I said, it all hinges for me on whether or not that's true or not.
Yeah.
And I've come to the point where I have no reason to believe it's not true.
Right.
Like, and I've looked for a reason. I've gone through times of doubt where I'm like, you know what, Lord, my life would be a lot easier if none of this was true. You know, and I'm reading books by atheists. I'm reading books by critics of the Bible. I'm reading like Bart Ehrman, who writes books about how the Bible's not true. I'm looking for that, right? And it just doesn't. It's always something like, oh, there's like Bart Ehrman. Oh, there's contradictions in the Bible.
And I'd hate to be like, I don't think I'm going to be the conversation or the person or the influence that's going to change your beliefs.
Right.
But I mean, and that's part of the trials, right? Is your beliefs will be questioned every day.
Right.
And
right. Even by myself.
Yeah, even by yourself. But that's also the thing too. Is like there's that whole thing too. It's like, and we can apply this to a ton of other subjects. Let's just say politics. People want stuff to be true so bad that you could place the evidence right in front of them, and they'll say,
it's that phrase, one of my favorite phrases. Well, don't bother me with the facts. My mind's made up.
I've gone down a rabbit hole of UFOlogy in the last 6 months because there was a whistleblower.
Yes.
David Grush.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's so intriguing.
And nobody's talking about it.
And it's so...
Dude, this is like huge.
It blows my mind, and you have to like ground yourself, and you know, and I'll get anxiety. I'll get all wound up too much reading into this stuff.
Because you're scared about it, or
no, I'm not just like you almost kind of everybody needs a ground. You have to have a ground somewhere to keep your feet from getting too out of there, and Christianity provides that for a lot of people. But, anyhow, I don't know why.
Well, the Bible specifically for me is that ground.
Yeah. And so, but I'm just saying, like, so that, for example, UFOs, like, you could show people a UFO and they'd think, like, no, we made that. That's not.
Right.
You could show them some cool property, like, no, somebody must have invented that. They will be so arrogant to think that there's no way. Even though we live this 2D life in a single plane on Earth like this.
Right.
And we live in these cities with so much light pollution that when it's nighttime, you look up and you don't see but 3 stars.
Yeah.
So people forget that we are but like, and I've seen stuff from astronauts or people have gone up to space and they look back on Earth and it just gives them that, whoa, like we really are nothing in the scheme of everything.
Yeah.
And I just think that people, it's arrogance, just pure arrogance, and we're too soft and life's too easy, you know. Which
is a new thing, right, for humanity over the last 100 years.
A solar flare hits us and all our electronics fry and the transformers all go out, dude. It's chaos in a week.
Oh yeah,
people are shooting each other, taking each other's food. I mean, it's just a facade, and we're living on this thin ice of. You know, of like order,
barely. Which for me is really scary unless I can trust in something higher than myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because other than that, it's like, what am I doing?
Life is just, it's so surreal. It's like, and I don't know if it's just like the times we live in or something. It's almost like, and I can see how like, you know, like mental illness and suicides and this like that are rampant right now because it's like, it doesn't feel real. It's so much. We have so much stimuli coming at us, and so many, whether it's Christianity or UFOs or God knows what, or Donald Trump,
Barbara Streisand.
Yeah,
you know,
is this real crab meat? Is it fake? It says it's real, but
hey, the imitation's good. That's good. Gets good stuff. I like it.
Just like I don't ever want to watch those. Vegan videos about the slaughterhouses because it will make me stop eating meat. I happened across a video of the making of imitation crab meat yesterday.
Oh yeah, so you're never eating that again, huh?
Dude, no, I'll probably eat it, but it was pretty disturbing too. Just this paste and stuff, and you're just like,
yeah. Did you ever hear? We were talking about Jim Gaffigan earlier. Did you ever hear where he's talking about the seafood? And he's talking about who's oysters. Whoever thought to eat one of those? Hey, I found a rock with a snot in it. Thinking about eating it. Oh, go ahead. Oh, what's it taste like? Pneumonia.
Because you know that very The very controversial topic that's probably come up in your podcast a lot about that, like trans community and stuff. And I don't know if you.
That seems to be the topic that comes up the most. Well, but I think it's just because it's so much in the news and everything's going on right now. So
it's just I was going to say about I know he's super controversial about it too with Chappelle. You were watching any of his stuff?
Yes.
One of his best ones was like,
he's
I know you're serious about it. If you're willing to cut
yes. But see, going back to people who are saying what they believe, regardless if people are going to try to cancel him or not, I look at Dave Chappelle. Again, I don't agree with everything he says, but I admire him because he's saying, look, this is what I believe.
Right.
I'm not going to stop saying it just because you're booing me and you're telling me I can't play shows anymore and you're going to try to cancel me. Chris Rock, same thing. Mm-hmm. There's a few of them that are just saying, look, this is my comedy. If you're offended, don't come to my show.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So I admire people like that, even when I don't agree with them, just because I think that's what we all need to start doing. We say, look, I believe what I believe because I've thought about it, and this is what I think. I'm open to correction. I'm open to being wrong.
And it's God, what's the word? It's actually a term out there. It's just like people are addicted to being offended.
Yeah. Well, especially these days. That's where the term snowflake came from, right?
Yeah. But just like I said about the solar flare thing too, like nobody will care about any of that when it hits the fan.
No.
Nobody cares whether Ryan wants to be whatever. Nobody cares if somebody's, pretending. Actually, people stop playing pretend. It's not. It's like we're just entertaining ourselves. We're just living our best. We really are. We're living our best life right now.
Yeah.
We're living our best life so much that you can choose. I don't want to be a man anymore. I think I'm going to be a woman.
Yes.
We're indulging our sexual preferences.
Yes. And that's encouraged.
And great. We're in a great time. But Rome will fall. And it's going to. And I feel it's not what it's bleak, and I don't like to think about it.
No.
Nobody wants to.
No.
But it's
bad. So I look at it like it's either going to get really bad till it's just destroyed, or there's going to be a great pushback that's going to put it. And at this point, I honestly don't know where that's going to end.
I just hope I'm so fortunate, like my dad or something, that dad got to live in a great era.
Yeah.
From when his life started to when his life ended.
Yeah, that's true.
He lived in one of the best times.
Yeah. Was he born in the early 60s or?
57, I think.
Okay.
56 or 57.
So he grew up in the 60s and then...
He's a boomer.
That's right, man. He had the classic rock. He had the disco.
That's a funny thing, too. I've seen a lot of, like, left, or, I kind of lean more middle left, I guess, but I've seen a lot of right-wing people, whether it's Tucker Carlson, and there's some other guy, I've never heard of him, but I guess he's...
Matt Walsh.
It might have been him.
Ben Shapiro.
It might have been Walsh, I think.
Okay.
I don't like Shapiro. He's a wiener.
Oh, yeah?
I think he annoys you.
He's a wiener. Okay. That's one criticism. I've never heard of him before.
He just bugs me.
Yeah.
But
he's not my favorite.
I think it was Walsh, and he was saying,
Walsh is my
favorite.
He
was talking about how, just about, people want to make all this knock on socialism and all the right-wing people, and they're making all this push against that left, and I'm totally paraphrasing his rant.
Right.
He was just saying how the only legacy you have to pass on, I'll have to share it with you if I can find it.
Yeah, if I can find it, send it to me.
Is the state of your country. Is the legacy you have to pass on to your children and stuff. And the boomers all had a wonderful country handed over to them.
Right.
In a great state, the economy, everything, and then they accumulated all this wealth, and then they raised us, they had us, and then they want to talk all this crap about Gen Z, Gen X, millennials. We're your offspring, and they're passing this horribly messed up country. The economy's a mess. This is your making,
But see, this is something that's in that generation too, though.
Why are you guys complaining about money? We just bought houses when they were $50,000 each, and now they're worth $1 million, and we're wealthy. And why can't you just buy a house too? Well, because they're $1 million, and you guys still want to pay us $8 an hour.
Do you think though that the Gen Z and I don't even know which one I'm talking about, whatever the one below me is, it is a lot of. They're being taught to blame everything but themselves for everything. Do you see some of that though? Like it's if you have problems because of your parents, it's because of your world, it's because of your job, it's because of your school, it's because of your whatever, your church, whatever. It's always somebody else.
Right.
You're not taught to take responsibility. I'm not saying it's not any of those things.
I'm not a big fan of like, I mean, even though I'm probably guilty of generalizations, I'm not like a big fan of like generalizing.
I'm not either.
Like that.
I'm not either.
And thinking that because my former employer had a problem with a young apprentice we had working for us. He was his early 20s, and this kid didn't want to work with this other guy for some reason or another, and didn't show up to work one day. And then I had a conversation with him on it and he just summed up. He's like, "Oh, is this some sort of millennial thing?" And I was offended. I'm not a millennial, but I was offended that I'm like, you're just gonna package it up and just say it.
I hate all that stuff.
I don't like saying boomers. Right. Okay, boomer.
Right.
And I don't like doing that to them either because I don't think it's all like that. But I do, you know. And back to I believe it was awful. Like it was Matt Walsh. If that sounds familiar, I hadn't heard of him, but I think that.
Well, Matt Walsh is the one that did the movie "What Is a Woman," that everybody's all about.
I haven't watched that one, but I mean,
you should watch it.
I've watched the previews for it, and fair enough. You know, like I don't disagree with like the concept of it because you know, nobody had the same. You know,
nobody has a definition for it. They can't tell you what that is. You know. Yeah. So
anyhow,
all right, man. Well, that's the end of our little session.
Yeah, thanks. That was fun.
That was fun.
Hopefully I don't come off sound like
no, dude. That was great. That was just as awesome as I was hoping it would be. So
cool.
Yeah, and I was going to talk to you about even in the first season because I don't know if you remember this. We were sitting on the couch at Mariah's house one time. I think Wesley was there and Quentin was. I think everybody was there. I don't remember why, but that's when the ideas for this podcast were mulling over my head. You know, because people like me and you would sit and we'd have deep discussions about these topics, you know, or me and whoever. And I was even telling us, I'm going to start a podcast one day and maybe we'll have you on it.
We can talk.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I've always been intrigued by the idea of doing it. I've always known that I could probably hold my own.
No, it's fun. It's a blast.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For questions or comments, my email is whycan'twetalkaboutthat@proton.me. If you want to continue the conversation, please join the Why Can't We Talk About That podcast Facebook group. And please leave a review if you haven't yet, and tell a friend about this podcast. Thanks. Here's a clip from next week.
About the theatrics of it is the cringy pandering that they try to do, where it's so clearly transparent that they're trying to create a viral moment or something that will show up on TikTok or YouTube, and you can see through it because a bunch of 20-year-olds are running their campaigns and saying, here's what's cool and here's what people will respond to. So then they do it and it's like, but this person's in their 70s and they would never, like a good example is when Hillary Clinton was running against Trump, it's when that summer that Pokemon Go became huge. Yeah. And she's like, I hear that all these kids are playing Pokemon Go, but we need to figure out how to get them to Pokemon Go to the polls. And everyone cheered and everyone loved it. And I thought, how is anybody walking away from this with a straight face going, that's my person? Yeah. It's crazy. And then do you remember when Trump got accused of being racist? He posted on his Instagram or whatever a picture of him eating a taco bowl, and he's like, I love Hispanics. And it's just like, it's so transparent when their campaign wrote something for them because they're like, this is what we'll go over.